What is up, everybody? This is Gabby Staten Island on the Craft Growers Network on Instagram, YouTube, and beyond. And we are going live with a really good friend of Notso Dog and I. His name is Kelly, goes by Kelron, and he is a legacy grower in Mendocino County. He just opened up his eyes, but I thought about that and I wanted to talk about how do we define a legacy grower? And um, but before we do, I just want to tell everyone on Instagram, please head over to YouTube. We don't do these lives on Instagram because Instagram hates the plant that we all love. So let's head over to YouTube on the Craft Growers Network. I promise you, this episode is going to be full of some amazing stories. So see you there. Alrighty. Share is real. Share, and we are good. Alrighty, everybody. This is my good friend Kelly, aka Kelron, or is it the other way around? Is your real name Kelron, or is that just?
It's a mystery.
I don't know anymore, bro.
Yeah.
It's a mystery.
Well, to give Kelly a proper introduction, he's been a friend of ours since the early 2000s.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
No?
Gabby, you don't remember me hiding in your booth at the country fair? I think I was.
That's what I was
I,
going to say. Wasn't that
I,
the early 2000s, or was that
I was
before?
16 years old. So you got to jump in your time machine right now.
Go ahead.
Go back to 1989.
It was no, it wasn't 1989.
I was 16 years old, Gabby.
I hadn't gone to the Oregon Country Fair in 1989.
Then maybe it wasn't you.
Yeah, you hid in somebody else's.
Uh-oh.
I still think you should tell the story. It still sounds like a good story. I did meet you at the country fair. I actually think that Not So Dog was there the same year that we met you, and you were hanging out with Eric and a bunch of the other guys from Oregon that
Mhm.
were up there at the time. So you got part of the story straight. We did meet at the Oregon Country Fair, but I don't think you were 16, and I don't think you were hiding at my booth.
I love how I liked how I remembered it better because it was like more legendary and
Tell
trippy.
your story. It's
Yeah.
better. Go ahead.
No, I
The thing
actually
about
I
the
don't.
story is it don't have
I'm
to be
glad you're.
true.
I'm glad we're clearing that up right now because like I had it in my mind that like where did I meet Gabby? And I think it was like when I was hiding in a booth at Oregon Country Fair, and my first year at fair was I was 16 years old, and I definitely hid in somebody's booth, and somehow, or maybe I didn't hide in a booth. I don't know. Somehow I got past the sweep and fell, passed out smoking hash in front of the main stage, and had a great time waking up and playing hacky sack.
So for those of you that don't know, the Oregon Country Fair, it's a really special event. It happens every year the weekend after the 4th of July in Veneta, and it happens at the place, what is it called where it happened, not the dog? It's
Veneta and
the fairgrounds, right? Or is it
no,
fair?
it's past
Like
Veneta.
fairgrounds.
It's on some
It's a
private property.
it's a
And the,
private. It's a
Huh.
like one of the famous dead shows that was there.
In
They
70.
did it because they were going to lose the property, and so the dead show was essentially like a fundraiser. So that I mean, what it
I
basically
thought it was
boils down
Patrick
to
Cheesy's Creamery.
it's
is
Casey
that
and Nancy's yogurt.
Yeah, that
the
was
dudes, the people that founded it are basically about
long
as
time ago.
OG Grateful Dead family,
Yeah.
hippies, first generation type, and it is maintained through a billion changes. A lot of its character. They've tried to steal it. The government has tried to steal the land a few times. But if you're a West Coast hippie of any kind, or even drawn to that kind of world, you probably ended up at Oregon Country Fair at some point in time.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Kelly was mentioning, hiding in a booth and avoiding the sweep, is they have a public event in the daytime, and then they sweep it and they kick everybody out that doesn't have a pass. And then every night they throw a rager private party. So it sounds like Kelly did not have a pass at first, but was intent upon enjoying the festivities once everyone had kicked out. So you have to hide from the sweep, and the sweep is designed to kick out everyone that's not supposed to be there. So Kelly exhibiting some
Or
early
everyone that doesn't have a wristband. Some of us are supposed
Yeah.
to be there. We just don't have the wristband.
You just
Right.
wanted, well, you were supposed to be there because you avoided the sweep.
Yeah, got
And,
through.
yeah. And so some of Gabby and I's and Kelly, sometimes long-term friends would be made because you just happened to camp next to somebody at one of these events, and you would make friends. And,
And then
it's,
later you'd drive your bus into a town like Willits and see the high pressure sodium lights in the Garden Spout and go, that looks like home. I want to go in there and see who's in that shop. And
did you move to Mendo in like '03 or '02?
yeah, it
Right
was
in
in
that range?
yeah,
Right in, right
exactly.
in, right in that
We
range?
came through in end of '02, like yeah, like in December of '02. And
So,
we moved our bus into
When we opened the
our
garden. Spout.
yeah. I mean,
y-
Kelly has been. I got here in the '90s when it was still like before like what people call the green rush. I would say Kelly got here very early in that phase, and like unlike most people who left, him and his lady put down roots here. Their kids went to school here.
So was it a school bus? You say bus. Was it like a school bus or
Yeah,
a
it was
pickup
a
bus?
school bus. Yeah,
Yeah,
we had a
right on.
I had a 40-foot Ford Carpenter, a 1988 Ford Carpenter, 40-foot passenger bus, and and
Oh yeah.
in the '90s, like after Country Fair, we'd go up to my friend Les Borden's place on Horse Creek, and his boys Rainbow and Noah were good friends. Well, actually, I met Les before I met Rainbow and Noah, but he raised his boys in his school bus, and he had this bitchin' old bus that was like kind of being eaten by the land, and had like all this craft carpentry, and I'd seen that. I'd also first witnessed school bus conversions like during the first Iraq War protest down at the federal building around Eugene. We're down there smoking pot and drumming with the Rastas and like eating acid and tripping out and just watching this whole like chaos between the USA crowd and the peace crowd and this like parade of super rad like two-story hippie buses pulled through there, and there was like a rocking chair on the back porch and like all their shit piled
The
up in some
welded
plant.
G-dub on top and stuff.
You can see it, yeah,
Yeah, that's
and I
cool.
remember thinking that's freedom. That's how I get around having to work 60 hours a week to hold an apartment down. I'll get a
Hell yeah.
bus. So that seed was planted back then, and then yeah, and I got even more inspired. Like in like '99, I went out to Burning Man, drove a Pontiac Grand Prix out through the desert, and camped in a tent, and just saw so many creative things being assembled out there. And I just realized that I really want to build this 3D groovy, funky bus and use it for everything from living into party vehicle. Built a stage on top of it, and put like a go-go stage on the hood and a stripper pole from the hood up to the top, and then built a pyramid tower. This thing became 40 feet tall, and like with flamethrowers on the back of it and a big bed between the flamethrowers, so you could have like giant squish party and bands on the roof and oscillating disco balls above the windshield.
Wow.
And then
It's
we'd
next
turn all that
level
on
fun.
and start grooving and playing and just drive around slowly, and that was literally the best time I've ever had in my life. It was so wild fun, and we did that for 7 years.
At Burning Man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So I just wanted to get back for a second and tell people a little bit more about the country fair and the sweep, because I don't think we did a good enough job describing that.
Mm.
So at the country fair, if you work there, that's when you get to stay after fair hours. So it wasn't like if you had a special pass for after hours, it was only for staff, right? Like if you had a booth, if you were working at the fair, then you camped out there. Everyone else had to leave. So I don't know what time fair closed. I think it was like just before sunset, like maybe
Like
eight,
7 o'clock, I think.
yeah, 7, 8 o'clock in the summertime. And what they would do is they would have, a bunch of security staff, and everybody would hold hands like this, making a line, and then they'd walk through the fair saying, hey, do you have a bracelet? If you don't have a bracelet, you got to go. You got to go that way. And then they'd sweep through the fair, and that's how they would try to get rid of everyone that wasn't belonging. Now, what people would do is they would go hide in campsites. So like the people that would work there, they would have campsites like in the woods, in the trees right behind everything. And we'd go and hide in other people's tents and hide in, and Kelly hid in people's booths trying to avoid the sweep. So there was like a period of time, maybe like from 7 to 9 p.m., when the sweep was really going on heavy and you had to hide somewhere and be quiet. And then, like, after 9 o'clock, once the sweep was officially over, you were in, right? And, everybody always wanted to go to the midnight show. Like, I don't remember what night it was, but there was one night that they'd have the midnight show and they'd have like naked fire juggling, which to this day I've never seen. It's one thing to juggle fire, and it's another thing to pass blazing sticks of fire underneath your genitals.
Hold on, Gabby. I got to take this call. This is
No
part of my
worries.
farm right now.
No worries. I'll keep telling the story.
Just a sec. Keep it live with the flaming genitals.
That's what we'll do. It. So there was flaming
naked
genitals.
fire spinning.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the cool things that I really like about like hippie culture in a way is that a lot of times when you're in like a subculture or something, it's all generally people within 5 or 10 years of each other. And like hippie culture, like it just kept going from the 60s on. So there'd be people that would come and go. But like when you went to fair, there was people that had been at fair since like forever, that were just old school hippies that were from, were a prankster, that were from Ken Kesey's, whatever. And so you might be 18 or 19 or 20 years old, just a young sprout, really. And you're hanging out with someone in their 50s with a lot of life experience, but you share music or you share a common culture or whatever, and it was super neat in that regard because you weren't just hanging out with like people your own age. There was a lot of different types of, and so you'd hear these stories of like partying in 1972, you know what I mean, and like the different eras that it would change and all that type of stuff. And the other thing
I'll say about rainbow and deadhead.
The other thing I'll say about fair, which was revolutionary to me, was we don't need to go all deep into it, but they had showers there. Like they had an area you could go and shower that was basically like an outdoor deck with shower heads all through it. There was a fire. There was usually somebody.
This was not the dog's favorite part.
Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing: if you ever have done festivals,
yeah,
okay, the ability. This is back then. I don't know what it costs now because I haven't gone in a while. But the ability to spend $5 and to go shower right before you went to bed and then go slip in your sleeping bag completely clean at a festival was like worth it just felt like $1,000,000 because usually at festivals you have to deal with a certain amount of griminess, certain amount of dirt, certain amount of sweat, festival foot, whatever. The ability to just like completely scrub yourself perfect and then walk to your tent or your campsite and go to bed perfectly clean, it was like immaculate.
So what Notso Dog didn't make clear is that, and I wish I could remember, maybe Kelly will remember what the name of the showers were, because there was
I can't.
It was a group of.
It was open. It was open basically like they shut every 12 hours for an hour to clean. So it was basically open 22 hours a day. You could go. So you could go party all night, and at 3:30 in the morning, if you wanted to, you could go take a nice shower. And it wasn't private. Like they had private baths and stuff. You could go in the beginning and you could like set times and rent or whatever for more money. But you could just spend $5. And it was also like being like a Midwestern kid who wasn't used to nudity, like you're showering with like dozens of other people, little kids.
That's what I was going to mention.
Old
there's
women,
a lot of naked people showering.
like, like just just, and like sometimes, like, you'd be all lit up because that was what I was doing at those times in my lives. And like you'd look up and there's all the stars and there's trees and there's water running on you and you're getting clean. And it just felt like Oregon Country Fair had the least amount of dirtbaggery. It was like the purest example of hippies, because all festivals have some degree of dirtbaggery going on. Oregon Country Fair was the cleanest, the
It
purest,
was
the
another
nicest.
time in forgotten space. Huh?
Yeah, it just kind of.
Particularly after hours. That's like,
Yeah.
because during the day it was open to the public and anybody could
Mhm.
go, but after hours it was fair family. It was only
I did
people
hair ups
who were
there a few
invited.
years and stayed there with the vendors.
Yeah, and it
In
was
the
just it was super
'90s.
nice.
You know.
It was
Yeah.
like a little
It
slice
was
of
cool.
old school hippie culture that survived.
Mhm.
I mean, the country fair is one place, and I haven't been there in a really long time. I wish I was going this year because this year they're doing a tribute to Bob Weir, and
Yeah.
Kimmock is going to
It'd be
play, and
nice.
a bunch of
Yeah.
people are going to play, but it's just in a couple of weeks, and I'm so
But
busy.
it's like the kind of thing where, like, if you're not familiar with it at all, like the amount of like of traveling bands where like you'll just be walking along and then all of a sudden there'll be people with drums and trombones and
Mhm.
random stuff and dancing and chanting and they'll just pass by, or like there'll be women at 1 in the morning all dressed in white holding up these like ethereal like lamp shades that are all tall, and they'll be like chanting something and you'll have no idea what the hell they are, and they'll just like wander past you, and like it was just a really cool expression. People, you know um people got all kinds of outfits and planned all type of things. There was all kinds, and the other thing that was neat was that there was nothing like they sold stuff there. It wasn't like Burning Man where there was no money allowed, but it all had to be, if I remember correctly,
Handmade.
Yeah.
handmade. There was no
Artists. Yeah.
corporate stuff. It was all
Mhm.
basically small artists, and like it just, I don't know, it was just super nice, and it went on for decades. The government tried to steal it at various times. The Dead had to get involved, like I said, to raise some money. They did some free concerts, free to them, like they raised money to like buy the land. When Gabby and
Yeah.
I were going, since we worked there, um, you had to be really careful to not get caught. Remember how much effort we put in, Gabby, to like not get caught smoking weed with our official
T-shirt.
t-shirts on, because what they wanted to do is they wanted to prove that um, Oregon Country Fair was a permissive place for illegal drug use.
Yeah,
And
that
so
was
if they
one of
could
the first festivals away from Dead Tour where I ever saw people smoking weed, like just out in public or
so
like
that was
around our
okay,
booths or
but
whatever,
if you had the shirt on, they
if you
were
were
trying, like,
working for them.
the local DA was trying to prove that like staff and everyone knew that there was a bunch of debauchery happening. So
Right.
we would make sure we had to take our shirts off before we smoked,
Right
in
on.
case we got a picture. Like we had to be pretty
It was a
careful
different
about it because
time. Yeah.
they wanted to draw this link, you know. Anyway,
Yeah.
he's back.
I'm back.
Kelly's
Ugh.
back.
Yo.
So the Oregon Country Fair, it's an exceptional time. I highly recommend that everyone check it out if they ever get a chance. It still goes on every year, the second weekend or the weekend after the 4th of July. So I want to get back to Kelly's early cannabis stories. Normally, when I have a guest, I never want to hear their stories in advance because I only want to have a genuine response. But Kelly told me a story that'll possibly be one of the best stories ever told on the podcast. He
Oh
was
man.
actually, how about I just let you go, Kelly? Tell us your first experiences with cannabis.
Are you for real? Okay, so my first experience with cannabis is kind of like probably going to make some people mad. I don't know. They'll be mad at my mom and dad. My mom and dad were teenagers,
But your
and
dad passed, so I mean, what are they gonna do? Hate on a dead guy?
yeah, my dad's passed, and they were super rad hippie, outlaw, gangster folks. Not gangster. They're more like trippy, hippie Christian pot grower. But anyways, I remember being about 2 years old or so, and the teenagers passing me the joint in I took a little hit off of it, and they all laughed and thought it was funny. Um, I actually remember that. Isn't that kind of weird? Like, I remember looking for my teddy bear and being like, "Oh, where's my teddy bear?" We were around the house all day, and like looked down and it was in my hand. Maybe that's because I had short-term memory from smoking so much pot when I was 2. But no, that was one time I remember it like that, and then like we moved from there. That was Findlay, Washington, and which is a pretty countryside of Kennewick. And then we moved from there out to Lone Pine. Are you familiar with Lone Pine?
No,
Not to be confused with La Pine.
no,
Lone Pine's out by Terrebonne. I think
I
it's
don't know where that
Terrebonne,
is
which is
either.
like just north of Redmond. Like if you're heading towards Portland on the 97, you get to, I think it's Terrebonne, is this tiny little gas station, maybe a little restaurant. In fact, there's a little restaurant there where caveat story, that little restaurant when well, I'll tell that later maybe. But anyways, out there just at that little town of Terrebonne, you can like head towards Prineville, which is where I was born. I was born in Prineville, Oregon. And there's a little, once you drop down that little valley, you're heading towards Smith Rocks. You know where the Smith Rocks is at?
I
Smith
don't.
Rocks is like a major climbing destination. It's freaking gorgeous. A beautiful place. Great place to trip out. Go drop some acid and fucking hike around Smith Rocks. And or eat mushrooms or whatever you like to do. But anyways, we'd moved out there, and Dad we had a country house out there. It was like a 2-story old, classic sort of country home, spooky, and there's a barn in the back, and the neighbor had a bunch of horses, and my dad was he was a trapper. He was a country boy. He grew up around there, so like him and his brother had like done all kinds of countryside sort of, not
Can I stop you real
vandalism, but
fast?
like steal the railroad crossing sign and put it up on top of the cliff, and that railroad crossing sign lived on top of the cliff, like way up there for. They probably took it down like last year or something. Like it's been there forever, and you drive out to Lone Pine and be like, "Hey, there's a railroad crossing up there." That was my dad's work.
I want to tell people something, or
You go, buddy.
clarify. I, when Kelly says trapper, he doesn't mean someone that sells weed illegally on the black market. I don't even know if that term existed back then because we were all trappers. He actually means like you would.
Yeah, he was a fur trapper,
Yeah.
like what Frank Zappa sings about.
Yeah.
I wish I was an Eskimo. Anyways, he was a fur trapper, but he was also a pot farmer, and he was just straight up like freedom fighter, outlaw. Believed that God was his boss, not the police, and he was going to do whatever he felt was right between him and God, and certainly planting cannabis all throughout the Crooked River Gorge was totally good with God, and and it is in my opinion too. I'm like, yeah, God loves cannabis, and so I remember him tending to his baby plants. Like he had like a hot box in the front yard, and it was 2 by 12, just a 2 by 12 square with like a piece of fiberglass lid that he could adjust. And I think I was 5.5 because I was 5.5. My little brother was born, so yeah, he was my little baby brother. But I remember going up to my dad, and he was watering his little pot plants, his little tiny seedlings in little white Dixie cups. And I remember tapping him on his left shoulder and saying, "Hey, Dad, are those the plants that Grandma's mad about?" Because I'd heard Grandma beefing about the plants. And he's like, "Oh, no, no, son, these are flowers." I was like, "Oh, can I have one?" He's like, "Yeah." He picked one up and gave me a little Dixie cup with my little plant. And I took it to my bedroom, went and stuck it on my little shelf, and I could see it. It's like a really fresh memory. My little dresser was in front of the window, and my little plant was right there. And that was like the day before all hell broke loose. Like the next day, I mean, maybe the day or two after. I mean, in my kid brain, I'm like, it was the next day. And I wasn't there. I was probably at school or something. Me and my mom weren't at the house. The house gets raided, and Fish and Game and like the whole state police and all these people were there to collect my dad. And he had a lot going on. Like he was like, I mean, a lot of nefarious shit going on. He was a Fish and Game poster child. Like he had, you know, live. And I'm not advocating for this stuff at all. I'm just telling you guys the story. This is 1978. He has live coyotes in cages in the backyard. He has a little den of bobcat kittens under the house, like under the house. There's carcasses everywhere because this man just poached and we ate deer. You know, he skinned coyotes and sold the fur. Um, and and he has this like little greenhouse in the front yard full of pot plants. And my whole like childhood, I thought that's why he got busted. You know, I mean, that was part of the charges was cultivation, but like the real reason he got busted wasn't there. They weren't there for the pot plants. That was just a bonus on their day. The real reason he got busted is because him and his childhood friend Sterling, he and Sterling had taken the time to go up to Washington and heist some other trapper's warehouse full of furs. And they had stolen all these furs and brought them back to their little hideout in La Pine. And so my dad being like what 24, full of gunpowder, starts fucking slinging furs and trading for guns and stuff and like whatever he can get, you know. And he's just got this cache of like all kinds of illegal shit. Like, and I can vaguely remember their bedroom with the door open, and I could see like a pile of stuff like rifles under the bed, like a great hiding place. But anyways, they hauled him off, and yeah, like he got like a 7-year sentence, and it was just a big back and forth deal. And I remember going to the Oregon State Penitentiary to visit Dad, and I wanted to bring him and show him my little box car thing, my little match, my little race car thing, and they wouldn't let me bring that in there. And you go see your dad behind glass. It's pretty sad. But my kids' spirits are so strong. Like my kid's spirit wasn't stifled. I was like, oh dang, I don't get to touch Dad. He's in the glass. Oh shit, man, when are you gonna get out of there? And and then he got paroled pretty early. You know, like he only did I think like less than a year in the state pen, and then he was on parole, and that scared him straight back to Jesus. He was like, 3 days a week going to church at that point, and walking the straight and narrow. And I remember we lived right down the street from this church that we went to, and that became our life, like we were straight as can be. And until his back gave out on him. Like eventually he had black disc disease from a labor. He was working for Eberhard's milk company and fell off the dock, blew out 3 discs in his back, and then the insurance denied him. They're like, "No, you're fine. Go back to work." And so he spent like the following years like crumbling under this disc disease, and being a tough son of a bitch, he would just fucking strap himself together and just get out there and do shit. And I remember one day the Crossroads came and they got a Discover card in the mail. This is all going to lead back to weed. Don't worry. I'm like just going on this like journey right now. This Bob Mayhew venture where they get the Discover card in the mail, and I'm trying to describe for you like how you go from like prison to like scared back to Jesus, and then back to the dark side. And so he gets the Discover card in the mail. It's a $5,000 credit line at 28%. And this is like opening his eyes to like, wow, I could actually access some money. What could I do with that? And back to his old buddy Sterling, who was a surly old fart. Sterling was in Dutch Harbor, Alaska, and tells my pop, hey, you could come up here, drive cab. This is like 1980 something. You can drive cab, make $200 or $300 a day here. Like the money's great. I'm making all this money. Why don't you fire up that credit card and pay your mortgage for a while, buy a plane ticket, get up here and work. And so that's what he did. So he fucking puts himself on a plane to Dutch Harbor, and leaves my mom and us kids with some groceries, and my mom was cutting hair, so she was able to like sort of hold the boat together while he was gone. Anyways, he gets up there and like finds it. His buddy's not driving cab, doesn't have shit going on, and he's just smoking crack in a fucking little trailer, and wanted to see his bro, and so my dad ends up kind of holy shit. I don't even have the means to get home. I have to work something out, and so he fucking ends up like strolling the docks and finds his way onto on a crab boat. Um, Basically, like muscles his way onto a crab boat. Like gets rid of, like literally, like all the boats are full. Like all the good boats that you could possibly get on are like totally full. They don't need anybody. But there's these other boats that are leaving today that are kind of not as good of a deal. Like there was a fishing vessel that was leaving that was like firing up ready to go. And so my dad went on to the SS Viking, just got on the boat and found the 18-year-old young buck that was just rearing to go, and said, "Hey man, this boat ain't leaving for a couple of weeks, and I think you want to be on a boat that's leaving today, and it's right over there." And he like sends this kid off the boat, and then the captain comes out, kid's gone, like, "Where the fuck did my guy go?" And he's like, "I'm here, I'm your guy." So he hires himself onto this boat and goes crab fishing. It's horrible, nightmare, like fucking can't. It was like the scariest shit he's ever done in his life. If anybody decides to go crab fishing, fucking hats off to him. We watch that Deadliest Catch sometimes just so my boys can see like, hey, your grandpa did this crazy shit, and it's kind of fun to watch it like that, because I'm like, damn, that's what he was out there doing. But that kind of work is terrifying, scary, and at a quarter share, he came home after a couple months with like 40 or $50,000. He had a whole bunch of 1980 money, and went back for another tour on, I think, half share for king crab, and came back with another chunk of money. I don't know how much, but then he was over it. He was like, "No, I'm not doing that ever again. It's so horrifically scary. You don't know if you're coming back to see your family, and you're out there in the ocean with all these hooligans." And so that's when he started doing other stuff that just led to trouble. He started going up to Tri-Cities and scoring blow from one of his old hookups up there, and bring it to Central Oregon, and was distributing that throughout the community there. And apparently the police didn't like that very much. And it wasn't so much that he was selling coke, it was that he was their competition. And that summer went really sideways. Like, I remember dad being really freaking paranoid, looking out the window all the time, and none of us know what he's doing. We don't know he's selling coke. We're a Christian family. We don't do that kind of stuff. But no, anyways, that was the scared back to Jesus with prison. And it didn't take but a decade or so, and he's back in the mischief, and that kind of ran us out of town, out to Eastern Oregon, and out in Eastern Oregon is whenever I was like 14, and met some friends there that had some pot plants in their closet, and they were getting kicked out of their house because of the pot plants, and so they gave me their pot plants, and I brought them home to my closet, and I had like an indica and a sativa. One was skinny, one was fat, and a fluorescent light. And I just thought, I'll just stuff this down here, because I lived in the basement of the house, and I thought, mom and dad probably won't notice for a while, and so yeah, that was my first indoor grow at 14, and that went until mom and dad started to smell it, and they're like, wait a minute, whoa, hold on, you can't do that here, like it's you. So I went and got my buddy Mitch. Mitch let me put it in his closet, and then we grew them up. They got really tall and fucking finally went to flower, and yeah, and then dad got cancer. We moved to all over the place, but we ended up in
Can I stop you right
Seattle.
there?
Yeah.
I was looking for the right opportunity to mention this. You left off my favorite part of your story about when you were 5.
Which part?
That was the first time you were in a police report for cannabis.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was a big deal. Like, I mean, they were like really horny about the fact that this kid was had a marijuana plant in his bedroom. So like the child had a marijuana plant growing on his dresser, and I should get a hold of that police report. I'm sure it's public record somewhere. I can.
Oh yeah, you want that framed on your wall. You know, it's like a badge of honor now. It's like,
Yeah, totally.
and I
Um,
mean,
yeah,
that's part of why I think we can qualify you as a legacy grower, right? I mean,
it's
how old are you now, Kelly? Can we say? Are you like 50 years old?
53,
So
53.
53 years old. He's been growing weed for 48 years. You know, I mean, like how much more of a legacy grower do you get than
That's
that,
pretty
right?
funny.
48
You don't get eyebrows like this without growing weed for 40 years, bro. Uh, yeah, thanks, Gabby. Thanks for tooting that horn.
Dude,
Yeah.
actually, Kelly, I'll keep this super brief, but what made me think of it when you were talking about your family going deep Christian was the very first person I lived next to when I moved to California was a fundamentalist Christian, right?
Uh huh.
He gave me this book, like, Did Adam Have a Belly Button? Like, no, of course, because he was made by God, and he believed like the earth was only like 6,000 years old, right? I mean, it's like if it was in the Bible, dude believed it to the T. But he smoked weed, which was like really uncommon for people in his kind of like subculture. And I asked him about it one time, and he gave me this serious look, and he was all, God gave man all seeded plants to use. The
Yeah.
government
That's
can't take that away from me. It's God's gift to my family. And it was he was so serious about it. He was like, if it was in the Bible, it was part of the world that he like that was the rules, that was the framework that he lived by. And so to
yeah.
him, God gave him seeded plants. Weed is a seeded plant. Therefore, he's honoring God by using a seeded plant. End of story.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I used to throw that one around a whole bunch, like when we were all talking about legalization. And you guys remember Condi's Lumberyard? Remember the first hemp fest outside of Eugene, Oregon? I think in like shit, maybe 1989 or 90.
I
Yeah.
didn't go there, no.
Yeah, I was out
I
there,
don't remember now.
but we were, I read The Emperor Wears No Clothes,
Mm-hmm.
and like preaching to the world about how important it is to legalize cannabis for all these purposes. Like we could fundamentally change all these things about our way of living and our relationship to the planet and our impact on everything could be softened if we just use this plant. And it could, but like you got all this other industry in the way. So like even though it's legal, you don't really get hemp toilet paper everywhere, and you don't get all the things that you're thinking it could handle, that it could handle. Cotton's still there. All of it's still there. The world just
Unfortunately,
goes on.
that's like it's a hamster wheel that has to do with like consumer demand before warehouses will be built where people growing hemp could take their hemp for processing, but we've actually had hemp processors shut down on the East Coast since legalization since the Farm Bill, because then it became about drugs and not about fiber.
Hmm.
So it's kind of annoying from a trying to help the planet point of view. Uh, you know,
Yeah, we always have this
throwing that
capitalism
out
thing.
there. Because I'd
Yeah,
like to see hemp toilet paper too. I'd like to see hempcrete. I'd like to see hemp insulation that floats around in the ocean instead of fucking styrofoam every time Florida has a
I mean,
hurricane.
one of the
yeah,
big
Like,
problems with all that
I
stuff
hear you.
is um to do all that, that means people that are currently making money off the way things are will make less money.
Well,
So
I mean,
those
people
those
with
people
money
don't
will
want it.
invest in what the consumer wants, right? So
yeah,
if we
Sure.
have consumer demand for hemp products and we have agricultural demand, like we want to grow this hemp and we need these processing facilities, and there's consumer demand, then the people that want to invest in industry will switch. I don't think that, the cotton people are keeping the hemp people from making money because they would grow hemp too. I really do think it's kind of like it's like the motor's not going, and until it can kind of get all those components, consumer demand, better processing, easier agricultural standards that people can meet, it's
It
going
might
to stay
change by
that
the
way,
time that we're
unfortunately.
actually the old people, not just like the middle-aged people heading towards being old, but like the
Yeah.
actual old people. You know?
Yeah.
Hey, back to Condi's lumberyard in 90,
Sure.
90. That man lobbied the state of Oregon to allow him to import several tons of hemp from France at the time,
Mm.
and so he got that he got the ton of hemp, which was just fibrous shit in bags, and brought it to the sawmills. Nobody wanted to process it. Like he couldn't get anybody. He finally finds a mill, I think in Roseburg or somewhere down there to process it into particle board, and it didn't take much. It was like it literally just had to go through the chopper, get
Yeah.
chopped to like 3-inch minus, and then went right into the press. And he produced sheets of plywood that I held in my hand. He brought them back to that farm. Sheets of
Hmm.
plywood and 2x4s with that material, harder than
Yeah.
any wood product. It was
Yeah.
amazing. It seemed like this is superior building material,
Yeah. Well, the
and
hemp
yet
treat is fireproof too. It's like really
right. So we're not
great.
seeing those products like prevalent.
Yeah.
You know, we're seeing everything else,
Hmm.
but I do think that it's pretty clear that hemp threatens a lot of other industry, from pharmaceutical and industrial and
Hmm.
recreational. So like it's just all there's always resistance to change. Like anybody who's
Right.
got their straw in the milkshake doesn't want to share another straw in
Right.
the
Well,
milkshake. You know.
and the guys that own like the company, they want to control all of the milkshake production, right? Like we're
Yeah.
seeing that right now with this rescheduling to Schedule 3. I think is happening where we're about to have like a huge corporate takeover of cannabis. And it's going to be something that has to go through the FDA and the DEA, and they're going to be pharmacological, or like pharmacology, and not a cannabis farm. So
Yeah.
I see big business coming for us right now. Um, so I don't know
My house
Yeah.
um,
It's
keeps shaking
interesting.
with
how we
with
hang on
Chapter
to it.
7s. Just
Probably
How
by
do,
having one.
letting go.
yeah,
I think we have to let go and sort of float in the ethers of particle space. If we hold on to anything, we become heavier and we fall.
true.
And that's sort of been my philosophy in life is to, try to float, try to be a free particle so that you're not stuck in one gravitational pull or another. And that might sound kind of wacky, but I think when you can let go, you're really giving faith to the creator, to the universe, to God, to however you want to put it. You're letting go of your physical, personal, egotistical control of the moment and allowing for greater things to drift into place in a way,
Mm.
and it's like our entrance into Mendo. Like I can say that, like we were very free when we came here. We were wild, bro. We were
Hmm.
just like living in my school bus and like, yeah, we're gonna move to. We pulled through here and saw Uncle Eddie growing, his 50 plants in the backyard in Ukiah,
Hmm.
and this little old man was just like, yeah, I told those sheriffs what they came here and he had it out with them and then they left and you still have your weed. Wow, like that's amazing. They had the patience for your banny little ass to tell him what and with your heart condition and your veteran story and they bounced and you still have your crop and God bless him, man. His courage was right there, and I'm like, wow, let's do this, and we end up bringing our bus and living in his driveway, and then searched around. That's when I found the Garden Spout, and within just like 4 days of poking around Mendo, we find a 40-acre rental with tons of water and 2 houses and a crooked swimming pool, and you know that place, Francis.
Yeah, it was a dope spot. Shimmy
up on Shimmons. There was
up on Shimmons. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, one thing I should mention is that when Kelly was talking about moving here, because of the district attorney we had and because of the sheriff we had at the time, we sort of like Humboldt got all the fame and high times or whatever, but Mendo like low key had the most like permissive. If you just wanted to move here and be a normal person with a family, like and doing things at a moderate level, they really didn't care very much then. Like they were willing to be, they were tired of being poor and they were willing for people to like make their loot and like and have a life. And it drew a lot of people here because of that thing, like it changed over time, but when he first moved here, it was I mean, I had when I first when he moved here, I had my ex had cancer. I had a medical card issued by the Department of County Health through the sheriff's department that allowed me to carry up to 2 pounds of weed on me. And you could actually call the sheriff's dispatch.
They had a hotline.
And they like, no, you would just call dispatch, like
Mm-hmm.
normal 911 or whatever, or the cops could call, and like a cop could give the number on your card, and the actual sheriff dispatch in Mendocino County would be like, yep, absolutely, medical patient, vetted through the county system, totally safe. And when
Yeah.
Bush threatened to raid them and take all of the medical records of people that were vetted through the system, our sheriff then was so OG, he shut the system down and burned all the records and literally told the feds, "Fuck you.
That was
You're not."
Craver, right?
Yeah,
Tony
Tony
Craver.
Craver,
Oh,
Tony Craver, and Norm Vroman, and they literally burned it and were like, "No way. You want to get us after for destroying records? You're not coming after sick patients. This is our community. Fuck off."
right
Yeah.
on.
And that was the environment that Kelly moved here in. That was the environment that Gabby and I opened the shop in. It was like there was like a brief, I don't know how brief, but there was an opening
Bro.
where all of a sudden it came. Like the funny part about it is Kelly
Yeah.
could tell this story. Like people lived and grew gorilla in the woods and under bushes and under trees, and this dude like literally like put a greenhouse on a giant hilltop, like
Huh.
Well, bro. I mean,
bro.
this dude over here put a grow store on the main street of town and
Yeah,
lit up
no,
some
no, I'm just,
sodiums.
but I'm
It's like
just
the
saying,
beacon was lit.
it's like,
Yeah.
but it was a beacon. Like people used to hide. I mean, we talked about it a couple shows ago, but Gabby and I thought about like whether or not we could build a 20 by 50 greenhouse and get away with it, or it was an auto bust because it was just so giant,
Right.
And so
Then
we like
so let me tell you a story to pull in
sure.
Tony Craver and my first experience with Mendo. He's like we came in, like I said, in 2002 December. By the end of December, we'd found this spot up in the mountains. So we're, me and my girlfriend at the time, Lady Joey, she's my wife now. We're we went to Colorado to go see her family, and when we came back, we're gonna pull it together and we're gonna grow some weed. And we go into Gabby's Garden Spout. Well, this spot that we rented, it had two houses. So like we split it with our friends that we moved here. And when we moved here, we landed at Uncle Eddie's place. Well, his nephew Derek and his girlfriend Micah were kind of the friends that brought us into Uncle Eddie's, and so it's kind of funny because like my wife's gonna love this part of the story because when we we get we get to searching for a place to do this grow and realize after about 24 hours of poking around, like you just can't bullshit people. Like you're not gonna like bullshit somebody and like put a pot farm in their backyard. You're never gonna win that battle. And so we just kind of got to this like realization that you just got to be straightforward about it, and just whoever you're talking to. So we go and lady and I drive out to Laytonville, and I think that's uh the first time I'd ever really stopped in Laytonville, and we pull up to like the store and we grab a little nickel paper, and there's an ad in there for 40 acres on Shimon's Ridge, tons of water, southern exposure, great place for tomatoes. And I'm like, this is perfect. We call up this guy, and this man named Eddie answers the phone, and he's like, yeah, it's my house is for rent. You should go check it out. He's like, are you planning to grow some marijuana up there? And I'm like, yes, sir. He's like, good, because it's perfect for it. You're going to have a great time up there. And I'm like, oh, cool. Awesome. Like, this is really the Twilight Zone. Like I've never imagined that would be so easy. So we drive up there and we drive to Shimon's Ridge, and the old man doesn't come to meet us there. He just tells us directions to his place, and uh and it was kind of too good to be true. It was just like, what? This
It's
is
an
just
unbelievable landing spot, dude. Just
unbelievable.
unbelievable landing spot for Mendo to
There,
stumble upon. Yeah,
a
what
rope of
was
water as thick as my coffee cup coming out of a pipe into a well box that was built in 1920, connected to a 1922 old cabin, but on a carpenter sort of framing. It's like carpenter style. What is it called? Carpenter style? I don't know what the fuck it's called. Where they have like the wainscoting all the way around the house. Inside the house is like wood up to your shoulders, basically. Um, and yeah, and then like the Garden Spout is like this new like connection homie that somehow we met back in Oregon. I thought in the country fair, somewhere in the country fair, I meet this guy who's going to give me all these tips about indoor cultivation and make it seem easy. And I'd already like read a zillion articles in High Times, and I'd had a bunch of little grows. I had my fluorescent grows, and I had like a couple lights in some basements in Central Oregon where we grew. Tell you more stories like finding your fucking garden floating in ice cold water, and the girlfriend calls the landlord who doesn't know there's a grow in the basement, and landlord calls the city, who calls the water people. The water people show up and they're like, I'm on my way to Portland to buy a fucking CO2 regulator, and the water people are like bringing a pipe to pump water out of the basement, and they're like 2 feet short of the basement hatch, so nobody sees that there's a fucking 1,000-watt light hovering over the water. And we get home in the middle of the night and it's still the basement hatch is closed, and managed to fish all of our shit out of there, put it up in the upstairs, move the light up there, not get electrocuted. And then the next day the fucking guys came and pumped the water out of the basement. But anyways, back to Willits and that first year, it I go to the Garden Spout. I bought a whole bunch of 600-watt light bulbs, the Gavita kind with the fucking the film on the back.
with the hood built in. Yeah,
And I think we put 16 of those in my garage out there, and maxed out the power drop there, and we're doing it. We got these flow tables set up, and or just drain to waste tables, and we're growing all kinds of shit that we got from the place down in Oakland. What was the big dispensary
third
down
floor.
there? Maybe that Harborside.
Harborside, yeah, Harborside
Yeah,
or third
Harborside.
floor were probably the two at the
And
time.
we brought white widow and great white shark, like all these stupid strains, and some snow bud. There's like a bunch of stuff in this grow room. And anyways, I'm like all in, focused, making this grow room work. Me and my buddy A Dog, and the neighbor Derek, who wasn't in on the grow, his uncle was, I think, kind of helping him fund their part of the farm that was to be coming. Derek, unannounced to me, and I've got everything in this garage. I'm like I'm all in over here. And then I come out of my grow room at like 10 o'clock at night, out of the sodiums, and here's Derek and his new friend that he's just brought to my grow room. And this friend, Joe, is his name. And Joe was tatted from head to toe. Like, his socks are up to almost his knees, his big, tall, white socks. His dickies are almost to his socks, and his big, baggy coat. And he's just got, like, prison tats all over him. And I'm like, oh, shoots, what's up? Hi, Joe. And, like, I'm not, I'm just going to I'm going to be cool. I can't really, like, get mad at my friend for bringing this guy. He's here. He's already here. There's no choice. So what's Joe got to do with everything? Well, Derek had brought Joe to help him, dig holes and be the, his farm dog and, get the thing going. And, but Joe, was on his own, had his own issues, like that came to our farm. And, at first it was really cool. It was like great to, help see this guy's eyes being open. He'd never seen stars before. This man had spent like something like 19 years in the penitentiary and had only lived in East LA and, Latino gang world or prison. That's it. And outside of prison, he had gotten out of prison recently and gotten a girl pregnant. His girlfriend has a baby in her tummy, and she's smoking meth, and he's not happy about it. And so Joe had gone over to the meth dealer's house and said, "Hey, my girl's pregnant. You got to stop selling her this shit." And they're like, "Yeah, whatever." And so she keeps smoking this stuff. And so Joe had, went and, the only thing you could possibly do at this point was go duct tape kitchen knives to your fists and go back and knock on the door and just barge in there and just start cutting everybody up. And he goes for a freaking melee, hacks this house of like tweaker people. Doesn't kill anybody, but like makes a lot of blood happen, and then escapes to Shimon's Ridge. So I come to know this story over the course of a couple weeks. It took a while to like really figure out what the fuck this guy's doing here. And then I'm like, oh man, we are fucking so roasted. This place is going to get rolled because Joe has been sitting in his bedroom. I've watched him talk on his little Nokia phone to, I think, his girlfriend. All right. So there's a direct line being drawn from wherever this man, went choppy to our little fucking hideout farm in the hills.
Fugitive hideout.
Yeah. So he's like fugitive hideout on Shimon's Ridge now. And I'm just like praying my way through it, man. Just like, once again, you cannot pull off a crime without some sweat. Like, you got to have some crime sweat. Like, if you're going to get a win, somehow you're going to have to sweat it out, And so we're sweating it out. I'm thinking, fuck, it's just a matter of time till they come for Joe. I can't convince Derek to send Joe home. So Joe's here, and I'm just going to fucking harvest this weed and get it done. And it's April. And we're like, I have a half dozen friends there. We're trimming. We got a bunch of cards and, a bunch of medical cards. We're feeling pretty safe about that. But this Joe thing is like kind of starting to get further away in my mind as nobody's showing up. You start to get comfortable. And then one morning, about 8 o'clock, I'm laying in bed and I see fucking boots run across the window, and another set of boots, and then a dog. And then I'm like, fuck, we're being raided. Okay, I better put on some pants. I slip on my long johns, my white long johns, my whiteys, and this house was positioned. Our bedroom was in the old front, but the back of the house was now kind of the front door. So like the back of the house faces sort of like this driveway courtyard where there's the pools over here, and there's the other houses by the pool, and then there's a garage house. There's like 3 structures. And I open the door to the back door, and I step out to this like array of SWAT team and task force and sheriffs, and all the way around to my very immediate left is Tony Craver, and he's got his Glock pointed at my head, and he says, "Just put your hands in the air and sit down, and this will be nothing but a cool story in 15 minutes." And okay, sat down. And the crew, the SWAT people, the guys with the guns go in the house, and they fucking usher out my girlfriend and like 3 or 4 of our friends that were there. And they get us all sitting in the yard. And the one and only black man on the property, Dohani, was hogtied and like cuffed and like being held down in the corner. Like they got hit to him first. Like as soon as they showed up, they tackled Dohani. Now the whole time he's over there screaming because he's literally being sat on. And these, we're all being pulled out of the house, and the SWAT team that's there, they're SWAT from Los Angeles. They're coming to scoop their guy, and they're in that other house right where he'd been making those calls, and they're grilling those folks. And once they're done grilling them, they come barging over to our side of the yard, and this SWAT cop is like, "Okay, now let's talk about all this marijuana." And he comes marching over to me, and Tony Craver stepped between us. Like he physically stepped between us. He says, "Hold on a second." He looks at me. He says, "You guys are 215, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, sir." He's like, "Okay, well, how many cards do you guys have here?" I said, "We have 8, and we are all here. All 8 of us are here." And he said, "Okay, good. Go get them." Joey goes in the house, grabs the cards, comes out, hands them to him. He looks through and makes sure that they're all, recent. He says, in Mendocino County, you're allowed to have 2 pounds of processed marijuana for every card. He said, you don't have more than 16 pounds here, do you? I said, hell no, sir. He said, he looked at that other cop. He said, welcome to Mendocino County, boys. And
God, I
that
love
was
Tony.
that was
What a
that was it. That cop's fuse just popped, and he kicked rocks literally and starts tearing off his flak jacket and tearing his shit off and throws it in the back of his trunk, cussing bullshit. This is fucking bullshit. This is just as bad as heroin, and you people are fucking crooked and out here in the woods crazy. And he peeled out and left, and I was just in shock, like, wow, where am I? And this sheriff
Home.
is.
You're home.
I was
Yeah,
home,
this
baby.
is home.
and Tony and I are standing there talking about it, and he's looking around our yard, seeing our gym bays and our hula hoops and stuff and fire toys, and he's like, "You guys look like you know how to have a good time." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what we do best. We have fun." And he's like, "Can I drop my teenager off out here? Can you guys show him how to have a good time?" Because I'm like, "Yeah, anytime, bro. Like, drop your kids off. We're safe." And then his other deputies like rolling up his sleeve, showing his tattoos and shit. We were just all becoming buddies. It was like unbelievably cool. I was like, wow, green light. And so, needless to say, we were pretty encouraged at that point that, I need to go back to the Garden Spout and drop some cash on some coconut fiber.
I want to interrupt you real fast. A couple of things. Number one, you don't have to keep plugging the Garden Spout. I appreciate it, but
Oh,
it's been out of business now for almost 10 years. But on a historical thing, I appreciate it. The other thing I want to say is, yesterday I made a post onto Instagram, and I said that an old friend of Not So Dog, and by old I mean like we've been friends for a long time. I said,
yeah.
old friend, the Not So Dog, and I is going to be on the show, and he has great stories. And I think, there might have been some people like thinking, Gabby's just hyping the show. But like, I knew that the stories that were going to come from Kelron were going to be like these Tony Craver stories. And, he told me the story about how when he was 5, he was in his first police report. I'm already thinking like this is one of the best podcasts we ever had. Also, because I have so much love for this guy. I want everyone to know how much we love Kelly.
Yeah, I love you too, bro.
Tony,
And, I want to say something that Not So Dog said the other day. I'm gonna quote him or paraphrase what he said.
Paraphrase or whatever.
So Kelly's talking about the heyday of Mendocino when we could just do anything and we were just like living the big life. Everybody had a new truck. It was just right.
Yeah, money would just hit you in the head. Bonk! Oh, there's a fucking brick of money. Sweet.
Basically, like somebody like Kelly would move here, just to use you as an example, and then they would start calling their buddies and explaining what life was like, and that would bring like 8 or 10 new people to the county because it really was the first time you could come out of the woods of the woodwork, and if you were a normal person that wasn't doing anything weird with violence or meth or whatever, you're just a weed, a family, like you just were into some weed and like you did moderate sized weed. Tony Craver had your back.
And if you were the other kind of person, the not normal person that did all kinds of nefarious shit, you would get promoted in the sheriff's department.
Yeah. So I mean, so it was literally like, and then, he keeps plugging but the Garden Spout, it was like the first indoor grow store, like with actual growers and hippies that were part of the culture that were running it.
We weren't being quiet about it, because it was spare
And so
time,
people would come in there and they'd be like, they'd talk to us and they'd be like, oh shit, these people are like us.
That's
and
right.
So it really was like a family type thing. You would come in with your problems, you would come in with your successes, you would talk about stuff, you would, hey, I want you to meet my new friend, he just moved into town, these are my homies.
Yeah.
You'd go out to dinner, we'd be at barbecues together on the weekends, we'd go to concerts and parties together. It was family oriented, people were starting to pop out kids. it was really like kind of a magical moment.
It was. It had so much like that. Our little county, especially Willits, had so much potential to be this cute little prosperous town, and it was coming. It was happening, and then Measure B came along,
Yeah, and changed it.
and I remember every single business out there, and I'm not going to list them right now, but I remember the businesses that had the "Yay for Measure B! Let's put cannabis back in its place." And all you folks going out of business that didn't appreciate the cannabis money are probably singing a different story now.
Well, I'm gonna
Yeah,
mention
there was,
somebody. I
and there
don't
was,
remember
and
the exact
honestly,
company. Hold on, Natsu, let me say this.
huh,
I don't remember the exact company, but there was a guy that used to sell car stereos, and he voted for Measure B because he was pissed off that all these people were, but he was a grower. He just didn't like the competition, and he didn't like how it was blowing up. So he voted against it. But the one thing I want to get back to, and I'll be really brief, I want to mention what Not So Dog said about Kelly, and I think this is important. So when all this shit happened with Measure B, and when cannabis became not as friendly in Mendocino County, there was a mass exodus away. So, earlier there was the mass exodus to Mendocino, and then when all the shit hit the fan, everyone left.
Mhm.
Everyone except people like Kelly. And
Yeah.
that was what Natsu Dog said. He said, "You know what? Kelly stuck around. He's still here doing his thing." And that's awesome. And not only are you doing your thing, you're still making a living. You're still
I
successful.
mean,
You're able to
the
support your family, and
the other part of it that I think
success
is
story.
important when I
1 year at a
just
time.
which ties into that, which when I was just saying about like we'd meet at barbecues and stuff like that, is like, we all had well, not we all, but most of us had kids. We started sending them to the same little school. We had a Waldorf school here. A lot of our friends sent our kids to the Waldorf school.
Hmm.
And it was like this weird thing where, like, in a lot of parts in America, you had to be super secretive. You had to be underground. You could barely let anyone know what you were doing. And in Mendo, it was like the kids knew what we were doing. The parent, like everyone you knew was involved in it. We would get together for cookouts and barbecues, and we would be at the school plays together, and our kids could go over and sleep at each other's houses. And it was normal and it was safe. And it was like a thing where we were kind of proving in real time that we were normal, good people that like to have fun, and maybe we were a little quirky or whatever, but like we
Yeah.
were as American as apple pie, and we just had a different way of going about things. And so there was a time here where it was like there was real community, you know, and a
There
lot of
still is,
people,
it's just more, it's just, some of the pieces are just older rocks that have been here for a bit. And,
yeah.
some,
But I just mean, like, sometimes the parents would go off to Burning Man and party, or sometimes they'd all bring their kids to Oregon Country Fair together in a big group, or there'd
yeah.
be a camp out at somebody's house. Or so one of the cool things about cannabis for us around here was it really gave you a lot of time with friends and family. You got to break bread with your homies. You got to, like, have your kids walking around. We'd have birthday parties, and there'd be tons of little kids running around and going down water slides, and we'd
Yeah.
be cooking out and shooting the shit and asking what was going on, and the wives would be all hanging out together. And I think that part is really important because we had like weed hippie family culture here, and Kelly was a big part of that. And you were a part of it. You were
Well,
a huge fan thing.
when I run for county supervisor, we should just fire this off again and get
Well, the
everybody
other thing
like knowing who
The other
Kelron
thing I
is.
want to mention, if we're gonna to tie it back to weed for a second, is Kelly can um you know illuminate on this as much or as little as he wants. But when OG, even before OG became king, he brought this cut up here called Master Kush,
Oh yeah.
right? And a lot of people, it's not the SoCal Master that's bubble like that people trade around. It was kind of dark. It was kind of ugly. It was lanky and funny looking. But to
Yeah.
this day, it was the best tasting example of Kush I've ever smoked.
I
And
agree.
Jack
these,
Herrera had the same thing to say about it.
it was, it
You know,
was.
my
I mean,
buddy,
when people talk
my buddy
about
took,
deep mouth coating, it
yeah,
was so tasty. It was so good, and it
yeah, it
was
was
like
delicious.
it was
That was
really
some gangster
delicious.
cut, man. That came from my buddy Rezik. who was like a brother-in-law of Derek and Micah. Uh, Rezik had a partner somewhere, that some grow that fell apart and some chaos. I don't know what happened with those guys, but for some reason, Rezik showed up in my driveway at that first place on Shimon's with a trunk full of Master Kush plants. There was 3 of them. They were already kind of big and stressed out, and he just like, Kelly, whatever you do, don't let these die. Clone these things, keep it alive. This is the shit. This is the Master Kush. I'm like, okay, I had no idea what that meant. I'd smoked purple Kush. I'd smoked all kinds of Kush, back, from the time I was smoking bong hits as a teenager and getting fucking high out of my mind. But like, this stuff was stringy and weird, and it was hard to root. But we did follow through, and we cut it. We cut everything we had. We had the Berry White. That was the first year the Berry White was cracked, and it wasn't called the Berry White back then. It was called BC Big Bud Trainwreck.
Big Wreck.
Big Wreck.
Big Wreck.
And there's a story behind that too that I could tell, but
Go ahead.
And yeah, I mean the Big Wreck, when we first got to Uncle Eddie's, our friend Ryson, his son-in-law, or actually his stepson, Ryson, had been growing out in Laytonville, and there was some old man out in Laytonville that had made these seeds. And so I'm not even claiming to make them. I just got them from Ryson, who got them from Laytonville. And Ryson told me it was BC Big Bud times Trainwreck. Fucking sounds great. Let's go. So we cracked a bunch of those that winter, and in the spring put them out. And everything started to go to flower and trip out. We went through this whole trippy grow. Like my first year in Shipman's was pretty wacky. But there's that patch of berry white plants. Well, it was called Big Bud Trainwreck plants, or BW. Was down the hill, and I have old black and white photographs from that patch. We cut a couple of them, and the one that was like the just tubular, super long, and gets a hint of purple, like just gnarly, fucking beautiful early stuff. We kept that one and passed it out to a couple of friends, my brother and some of the other guys that had moved up here from Oregon. They took it out to Covelo, and a guy named Sheldon, a couple of different people out there grew it. I think it got to my buddy Mike, and it's just the strain just got around really fast. Like all of a sudden it was like being grown prolifically. But it's funny because like since then it's kind of taken it that kind of had its journey as a plant. I think that thing's probably mostly gone by now, but it found its way into some some lists and magazines. I've read articles. You could even Google it and look up the berry white strain, and they'll tell you some bullshit that's not true.
So
it's
I
not where
want
it
to
came from.
interject real quick here, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, Kelly, because this is a very old memory. But I remember you telling me this story about how you had this Big Wreck. And this Big Wreck, okay, was amazing because it was done pretty much in Mendo at the end of September, which is very rare. Most things went into October. Things that were
looked
done
like indoor weed. It
looked like it was frosty. It had hints of purple. It threw huge chunks all over itself.
Yeah.
It was like a reliable 3 to 6 pound plant from a cutting, type of thing. It was just giant. And you were telling me this story of like you were in Covelo and it was called Big Wreck. And nobody wanted it. And then your homie was like, we should call it.
Let me drop back in there before you go too far. Like my buddy, Bulldog Zach was out there. And these are my Central Oregon family that I grew up with as kids. Like they were just a bunch of freaking tough roughneck motherfuckers. And Zach was a cage fighter, and they put pads out there, and he would make his workers fight for food. They had to like literally go, beat each other up, and like the winner gets it, and these maniacs grew a bunch of it and called me up to help move it. And I brought some friends out there that were like, and I don't think I even made $1 on it, but my friends killed it. Like they went and, bought it right off the farm in Covelo and drove it, I think, to Willits and sold it as indoor, just like probably doubled their money or something.
The first fakers.
Just the first real fakers. But they're out there going, this BW is on every bag, and this name Big Wreck just sucks. We got to come up with a better name. And one of our buddies that was there, this big, huge dude from Oregon named Jesse, was like, BW, what about Berry White? Everybody loves Berry White. And we were just like, duh, that's the best name ever. Yeah, it's Berry White. And so that's where the Barry White name came from. And
I'm wondering how much of these like youngsters know Barry White, the
I
musician.
just
Like
I
how
just remember you
right.
telling me the story about like nobody wanted the Big Wreck, and then the name got changed to Barry White, and all of a sudden you were getting like a 1 or 2 point premium, and it was
Well,
just flying.
that's how
Everybody,
stories change. See, like
yeah,
nobody wanted it is one way to translate. They didn't like the name.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, because like the
uh-huh.
stories actually, they just didn't like the name. They wanted the stuff, no doubt, but the name sucked. They just needed a different name on it. You know, and yeah, it's and that that was a time whenever like you said we grow the master kush. So like the choice for me on my farm at that point was, do I grow this Barry White that is kind of, the thing about it is it's kind of doesn't really get you that high. That was kind of scary. Like once people figure out you're not getting high from smoking this weed, you're kind of getting high, but it's not like smoking a joint of the kush where you're fucking in
Yeah.
cartoon land, like just totally fucking high. And so I just kept growing the kush because it was more concentrated, and once I found out what it was and what people wanted to give me for it, it was just a way easier choice. But it wasn't the most lucrative choice. That Barry White was the lucrative choice. Like all my friends that went and grew the shit out of that made millions of dollars. They bagged it. Gray sealed bucket. Yeah,
someone made
maybe
a
they got
comment.
it after it got
You
old.
know when they spell it Berry instead of Barry.
Well, there's two.
Barry.
Hmm.
There's one that's like a White Widow blueberry something that came out of Washington or whatever. That they call it
That's just what
berry.
those people say, bro. Nobody gave that. That's the fake Barry White is what that is.
That's the big
That's
Barry
just how
White.
they used all their know everything powers to put a strain and say what it was. Like, oh, this was the DJ Shorts Blueberry times White Widow. That's all you'll find about Barry White. But that's not what that
That
I don't I don't know that strain. If
when when
let's just imagine that strain's up there, right? The DJ Shorts Blueberry White
yeah.
Widow. Did it make as much noise as the frosty ass Mendo Barry
No,
White?
no. I
Hell
don't even
no.
think I saw
So
like it was like the thing that people don't realize is that everybody talks about things finishing early, but most things that were good finished the last 2 weeks of October in Mendo. So to
right.
have something that came down in September and was dry and in the bag and ready to go when most people's weed was still
Yeah.
in the hole
It was
was just
super lucky.
astounding. It was just an
Yeah.
astounding thing.
That's the kind of luck I've had with cannabis, bro. Like not just finding shimons. Remember how 4 days in we find that place?
Yeah.
I watched
Yeah.
family after family after family come here and spend sometimes years to find a decent place.
I can't remember if it was you or one of our close friends, but somebody I remember this story of like the master and just being told, look, the thing about the master is he's like, I will have brokers calling me wondering when it's going to be ready, and then they will come to my house and knock on my door to make sure they get it. So it's like if I grow the master, I will have people just come to me
Oh,
and
that's right.
check in with me
I had
and make sure that they're gonna
yeah.
and check and make sure, am I gonna be first? Will you make sure you hold it for me? I will come to you. I will drive to bumfuck Egypt where you live because it was so good. It was so good. And people don't realize then too, like in '03 or '04, whatever the fuck that was,
Hmm.
like that weed was out. I mean, it's outstanding. It would be outstanding now,
It
but
still is. Yeah, it's amazing.
it was so good comparatively to like other things that were from most things that were around.
Hmm.
It really was good,
Oh
you
no,
know.
to the point. I'll tell you the truth. I was bringing it down to Los Angeles, and there was
Mm-hmm.
two different individuals that would get it. One of them you know really well.
Yeah.
The other one you just wouldn't know. But the other one took it to the Las Vegas Kush Cup in back in the day. It was like early 2000s, and and OG was there, and my master Kush that he brought was there. He brought a half pound, like not enough to really make all the noise he needed to make, but it was enough to get Jack Herrera to get up on a chair and hold that bag up and that joint and just shut the crowd up for a minute and say, "This is the real shit right here. This is the
It
actual one." And so
it didn't look as
got
pretty as
Jack's
some other
call.
cushes. It was
Oh, it was ugly.
darker. It was ugly looking, But
Yeah.
man, when you smoked it, it got you so high, and it would be this thing where like after you took a hit, you could literally roll the flavor around your tongue, your cheek, on the inside of your mouth.
Yeah.
Like people exaggerate on the mouth coat, but that thing was not an exaggeration. It was delicious.
Yeah,
It was
totally.
delicious.
It's too
And
bad I mean, for us, it just got old. Got old, and eventually, the last time I was able to make clones from it was, I want to say 2017, maybe
I have
18.
hope. He lives in Tennessee now, but our old buddy Gabe, he
Uh-huh.
passed it out to a few people in Oregon, and I still have some hope maybe that it'll pop up.
Well, I
You
have
know,
seeds of it.
you have seeds of it.
Yeah.
I got it back once, and it was literally like it wouldn't drink. Like it was like you had to give it like an ounce of water every 5 days, and if you overwatered it, it would die, and it didn't want to
It was
clone,
very,
and
yeah, it was bitchy.
you
it
know what
was just very temperamental.
you know what I think made the Master Kush so good?
Mm.
And I don't have any evidence to support this, but this is a very strong feeling. I think it came from the Chem 91 because that's the OG type uh, taste that I get off of it is
Mm.
Chem 91. What do you think, Kelly?
Whatever it was, I adored it.
I think it's gnarlier, like myrcene than the. I don't, and I wouldn't identify the Chem 91 as easily as you would. You'd know that probably more better than I do, but the Master's flavor was just so rich. It was so
Anyway,
just greasy
it's
with
yeah.
myrcene and pinene or whatever the fuck its little list of
When I
terps are.
dream of things that I used to have, Kelly, that is very, very high on the list of.
Me too.
It
Well, I
would
have
be.
like I said, I have a bag of seeds that like we pollinated with back in the day. You remember Cesar, our
Yeah.
boy Cesar?
Mm-hmm.
God bless
Yeah,
his soul.
he
He
died.
had he had taken different OGs males and like pollen. He was kind of like collecting seeds and like running pollen through Kush farms after Kush farms, and he ran some through the Master Kush. And I think the Master was in there, and whatever other Kushes he encountered. But then ultimately, like um, Tar Hill, Jeremy, and Josh and myself were all pulling stuff together. They came to my farm to get the Tahoe. That's right, it was the Tahoe. That Tahoe Kush bred a little better, made juicier fruit. Um, and they hit that Tahoe with some C4. I think it was some C4 from where the fuck, out on the East Coast. There was
The
a
Chem 4 or is that
Chem
something?
4. Yeah, there was some guy named Chem, right? Wasn't there a Chem out there?
Chem Dog.
Chem Dog.
Mm.
Chem Dog seeds, bro. These guys were waiting up all night at the library in Willits to catch the seeds when they would drop. You know, you have to sit there and look at your computer. So to be online, ready to go to plug the purchase when those seeds would drop because they were going to be gone instantly. And that got on the Tahoe, got on the Master, got on a bunch of stuff. The Master didn't really like breed that well for like trying to upgrade a structure with greasier gas, but the Tahoe translated really well. And that's where the Lemon Head and the Rolls Choice came from. Those were both Tahoe C4. Well, anyways, that Lemon Head got back to Cesar. So Cesar brought that Master Kush and his whole lineage of Kush back to the Lemon Head, and then that was the year he was killed. And when we came to clean up his house and get his stuff in boxes and whatnot, we came across his little jar of 2016 Lemonhead OG back cross seeds, and so I took those and grew out a whole bunch of them. Took like a whole bunch of males, tested males for a higher THC male, got the juiciest male I could find and put it on the Master Kush, which I still had, and that's what I have seeds of.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so there's some surprises in there. I've grown a few of them, but it's just that the market, the world, what I need to produce in a square foot didn't really add up anymore like that.
No, I
Like
get it. Yeah.
nobody wants to pay the premium for this plant whenever they can get all this other shit for just so cheap. So I haven't grown anymore, but at some point would love to pick through there
They
and
exist.
find you something rad. Let me know if you want to do the hunting work on your
Oh,
back deck. I'll get you a
definitely
few.
we'll do a couple at a time and see what we can find for sure.
Right?
We got to before those seeds get old and difficult.
Oh,
Or
they're probably for sure
or
already difficult.
we can do the embryo rescue on them, so
Oh, cool.
we can get them to grow.
I'll bring you some.
Yeah,
I'll get
they
them to.
were.
I want to tell everybody how this podcast came into play as well. So the other day, I was at one of my favorite uh, lunch spots here in Santa Rosa, and I'm like, "Fuck, that's Kelron," and you were on the phone, you're all distracted, and I'm like, "Kelly," and you're like, "Holy shit, it's Gabby!" Like we just ran into each other randomly,
Yeah.
and I just, because Kelly lives in Mendo, like not so. I haven't seen him in I don't know how long. It could be. I mean, it's a long fucking
Years,
time. Yeah.
a
So
year or two goes by pretty easy, bro. I've seen you. I see you pop into the card room now and then. We'll be playing cards a table away from each other.
it's been a long time since you saw that too. It's been
Yeah,
at
it has
least
been a while.
years. But yeah. So I saw him there, and he shared some beautiful water hash with me, and that's a topic that I want to get into as well. Um, but he shared some beautiful water hash with me. And I was just thinking, like, man, I got to have Kelly on the show because Kelly is part of my story. Like he was one of the people that, as he said, he used to come to the Garden Spout, and part of this Mendocino group that we all had. And so I really wanted to have Kelly on the show. And like I said, he shared this water hash with me, which I think is a good conversation we can have because it was so beautiful, and it's sun grown. And so my thing about it is I love a good rosin. Okay, if it's really good, it's great. But something that I've always thought about, and I think Not So Dog agrees, and I'm pretty sure Kelron agrees too, is that like when you make rosin, you're heating it, and when you're heating it, I feel like you're kind of ruining it. You're definitely evaporating some terpenes. Even if you're making rosin at a lower temperature for rosin, you got to be losing something that way. And I I want to ask, the listeners and not so Sarah and Saraquoia and Kelron, like, why does everybody prefer rosin these days to like a good water hash or dry sift? To me, it doesn't make much sense.
I think it might be the other way around, though. In reality, like I think more people on the planet enjoy the other thing. I think rosin's a more rosin consumers is a more finite crew. There's not as many people that enjoy rosin as there are that enjoy bubble hash.
Hmm.
You
Like you
know,
just don't see it as much in
it's
dispensaries.
just
I
in
mean,
in our culture right here. Rosin's this like top star. It's kind of it got to that, and I think that's because this is where it's oriented to where there's just tons of material and there's just so much flour here that this refinement, which I think I want to thank Mendo for. If you think about it, like when was the first time that you remember seeing live rosin?
Well, live meaning like from fresh frozen?
Yeah.
Yeah, live, I
Well,
think of
good
as
good
not
point.
processed by oil, right? For like not heated, usually live rosin.
Well,
Or is
live just means that it's made from frozen material versus dry material.
okay.
yeah.
Like
I,
it's
I
just
don't know when the first time I saw fresh frozen
so
was.
fresh material, whether it was frozen or not. It's fresh material. I can't say I remember it being live or not, but I remember whenever I think in about 2005, maybe six, when I first saw or heard about people pressing bubble
Hmm.
hash through a flat iron.
Making
Hmm.
little
And
coins.
they made well they'd
Yeah.
take the silk screen and then run it through the flat iron. It would squeeze the juice out, and you'd
Yeah.
Hmm.
have that was the first time that anything close to rosin.
Oh no, you're talking.
Um, but
My
that
my favorite
refinement process
hash.
started here. It became a
Yeah.
race to the best, with like these local breeders and you know the Skittles guys and the just all the Mendo peeps. I think Mendo specifically focused on refining the best hash possible because we didn't have the garden sizes, the kind of like bulkiness that Humboldt had.
No.
And maybe that's just my perception, but like I always saw Humboldt as like just growing way more weed, right? And our farmers are stuck in this 25 plant bullshit
I
or
think, honestly,
10K.
dude, I would disagree a little bit. I would say that in Mendo, like if you go out Spy Rock or you go out like in the older generation, there was some like remote big farms.
Sure.
But like of our group and our age that wanted to live like closer to town and have families and this and that, we weren't really like going for it quite as hard as like some of those old timers in the backwoods. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we were a smaller scale of situation. We had our own kind of thing going on. And
Yeah.
and I think that's part of it. For sure, is because we were all like of a similar age, like now we're all
Well,
probably like late 40s to mid 50s or something, like late 50s, but it was a group of us that were all sort of in the same, and yeah, I think we kind of developed that, and then you, like I was saying, at those barbecues or at the gatherings or at your kid's birthday party, sometimes all it would take is somebody like Kelly showing up and being like, "Look at this," and then like 6 or 7 dudes would
check this
smoke it,
out.
and you'd be like, "Okay, what the fuck is that?" And then it would spread. You're like, "Oh, how'd you make that? Oh, how'd that happen? Oh, you're doing that tech? Oh, I'm gonna try that." And
Yeah.
a lot of information spread that way. Literally like pulling something out of your pocket at your friend's barbecue or your
Yeah.
friend's daughter's birthday, and you would
Uh-huh.
have something in your pocket and you'd be like, look at what we just tricked out, and a lot of information would go back and forth. Cultivation techniques, hash in this case. um we used to do this thing where we would get like those, like we call them trim tables, but like the little white, like 3x6, like plastic table. We would get a piece of glass made and put that on the top of the table, and then put sides on it, and then stretch silk screen over the top of it, and we would have people trim as their
Hmm.
trim table, and about a half ounce or an ounce of hash would just fall through. And man,
Yeah.
when you scraped that up, that dry sift that just fell off as people were working, oh my God.
Well, nowadays, you just described probably like the sifting that happens before the static comes along. And then
Mm-hmm.
like all that stuff falling through that screen. Nowadays, you'd take like a balloon or a glove and you'd get static electricity and you'd pull just what's willing to go to the static,
Yeah.
and you'd pull it out of there, and then you'd brush that off in a cold room with a little brush, and you'd static some more, right? And then you'd get this like super premium product that's being, you know, played out as we speak. There's that whole static hash world is there's a lot of it, you know.
It's
My daughter's
booming for
texting me
sure.
that
It's
I
what
need to.
everybody wants, or what a lot of people want right now.
I'm probably gonna have to leave early. My
Yeah.
daughter is in summer school, and so she just texted me, "Don't be late, Dad."
Hey, I want to
Y-
say something real fast before
Huh?
Notso
I don't.
goes. Um, there was an earthquake today in
There
Mendocino.
was
It was like a 4.5, and
No,
5.7.
5.8 or 5.
Yeah, it
I've
was
seen
big.
5.7. I've seen
5.8. Yeah,
5.8 too.
oh wow,
it was the biggest one I've ever felt. It tipped over bookshelves in my house. I've got shit all over my room. It broke my bongs. Um, Terrified my kids and my dog. It was the ground rippled. It was
Yeah.
pretty intense there for a minute.
and your bong is resting in pieces.
Multiple
Mhm.
bongs.
Yeah.
Multiple bongs all died. It was
So
painful.
I wanted to say
I'm
thank
glad you're
you
all
to,
okay.
to Notso Dog and Kelron for being
One
able
sec,
to
one
do this.
second. I'll be right back.
No worries.
Well,
Um,
bro, I just had to, when the I was in the garage, like plugging in my son's speaker to make sure that the thing's ready to work for his performance this weekend, and I turned the thing up and I said check, and the house started to shake, and you know, I I dove straight for the bong. I was just, go to my safe place. Just kidding.
No, I
Man,
but
mean,
I'm
you
I
said
glad
happy
had
everybody's
birthday in
all right.
Mendocino today.
Yeah.
it was this in the 28 years or 29 years or whatever I've lived in Mendo. That was the strongest earthquake I've ever felt living here.
Yeah.
It just
Seriously, that was a good one.
it knocked over
Wow.
bookshelves in my house. Like I said, it trashed
My freezers, we had just dropped the 40-foot freezer on my farm. So like it was just literally sat on blocks and we leveled it out, put a block over here, get one end level, and then down at the other, and you got 10,000 pounds jacked up on like multiple jacks to get it up and then position, you know, our blocks, which are railroad ties. You know, I cut railroad ties into pieces and sort of zigzag built up the corners and then throw a big one in the middle and then sat it on another one on top of that. And it starts to look a little precarious. You know, I was like looking at it yesterday going, I wonder if that'll hold up under an earthquake. I literally thought that the other day because I'm like, this is kind of, like, yeah, we don't get those very often. You know, it's pretty rare. And it did. It held up. It didn't fall over. So I'm like stoked I don't have to go and
fix that.
Oh, the Channel 5 news is pulling up. Check it out. Where are they at? Over here.
Oh,
the helicopter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're on to me.
Day, whenever we saw a helicopter, we were in sheer panic.
Right.
I still have PTSD, dude. Like Pavlov's dogs or whatever.
Has anybody seen my disco ball?
I haven't been able to see your disco ball, but what I will say is your background is
very
one
on
bright.
The bus.
Like
very bright.
The sun
is. It's not on the. It's like, just let me know in the comment section if anybody can see my disco ball.
Everyone, let us know if they see the disco ball, please.
Where's the disco ball for?
I can't see it.
I wonder if the image I'm seeing is as clear as the one you're seeing.
It should be the same. Hold on.
Anyways,
I can do something. Make it.
Yeah, this will get your face closer to the screen now. Oh, dude,
this is the.
You're never gonna see it. It's so right in your face, though, too.
This is the Redwood Valley store. My buddy just sent me an image of it. He went in there.
Gosh, dude,
oh shit!
Wow.
Oh wow! So it's a catch-up frenzy down at the.
A lot of exploded bottles apparently.
Yeah,
that sucks.
Like bottles, alcohol, or something. Wow.
Bro, I bet you some. I mean, it rattled the shit out of our house. You know, we're one story. Felipe was upstairs at the farmhouse. It's a 2-story. In the shower, the whole fucking place is going crazy. He ran out of the house, you know, with no clothes, just like, what the fuck is going on, you know, and was scared to go back in there, you know.
But, yeah, no, I mean, I felt like if you saw me looking around during this show, there was some aftershocks where stuff started moving, and I was wondering if it was going to be smaller or bigger.
Dude, we're gonna smoke some aftershock hash because I'm literally harvesting a bunch of houses today. So we're gonna get to experience hash that had been thrashed by earthquake stress before it was harvested. And that's the one ingredient. Yeah, that's one ingredient I can't replicate, and that's totally up to the
We don't have to stop. I gotta go in like 10 minutes.
And I'm gonna go outside and rip some weed, but we're gonna continue.
NorCal Tire. I gotta call that. You want to continue? I'm gonna let NorCal know to put bigger rubber on my truck today.
Go ahead, you do that. You can put us on. You can put us on mute. And so in the meantime, I want to tell everybody in Mendocino that we are sending you love. Hope that not too many of your bongs are resting in pieces like Notso dogs. And if you guys have any questions for Kelron, you can start posting those in the chat. I'm going to mute this one, and I'm going to open up my cell phone, and I'm going to walk outside and smoke some weed with you guys. So hold on 1 minute. Actually, I'll unmute while I find the link. So I hope you guys are all having a great day. Listen, I don't want to say I'm disappointed, but we only have 135 people watching live, and I really think that this is one of the best podcasts that we've done. Got some great stories, so please, everyone, share and press that thumbs up button so more people can find it.
I hate that I have to leave early, but my middle daughter has summer school.
Yeah.
She didn't handle being a freshman this year as well as she could have. A lot of distractions. And so she is making up one of the classes that she screwed up in at the moment.
They don't call it summer school here anymore. They call it Jump Start. What's up?
I need to jump off, I think.
Yeah.
All righty. You have another earthquake?
Well, I love you all.
No,
I love
he's got to
Kelly.
get his daughter.
I'm so pumped that that we got to chat a little bit. Kelly and Gabby and Sarah can continue this. Keep listening because Kelly is literally one of the most entertaining people you could ever listen to talk. So make sure you pull some stories out of him, Gabby.
Mm.
Peace.
Yeah, Kel.
See you, bro. Glad you're all right.
You you can share some stories for sure, Kelly. One thing I wanted to tell everybody that I think is an interesting thing to think about is, back in the day, we grew everything for flour, and now you grow everything for fresh frozen. 100% of your crops are for fresh frozen. So do you want to tell people about like how that transition happened? Oops, I think you're muted.
Yeah, you are muted. Have you
I
got it
think I
muted?
Am
muted
I
Oh,
back
you.
there you
now?
go.
Is
I
Yeah.
that
think,
better?
yeah, you're
Yeah,
back.
it's better.
Yeah.
I mean, it for me, my journey to the frosty side started in like I think 2020 or 2020 or 2019 when it was 2020 because I got my farm up on Ore. We landed up there in 19, I think 20. Um, my partner was working with the Real Deal Resin, the guys Dustin and Sam, and they were working to launch their brand into the rec market, into the legal
Mhm.
market, and so they offered to bring a bunch of their hash making strains to my farm and kind of help give me instruction on how to harvest it, and then that would get shipped over to Leaf, and then they'd make rosin and fill their brand.
Mm.
Um, so I started off from scratch, basically just this guy, Sam came out there and was like kind of a pretty easygoing dude, just like yeah, just do this, yeah, you're just gonna harvest a little bit early, and you're gonna basically uh, don't cut too much off, don't mess with it too much, get it frozen as fast as possible, and pretty brief instructions, not really very thorough, but good. And we went for it, and we harvested some stuff, and it went well. And they had they made their hash with it, their rosin, and started to. Leaf was our give Leaf a plug. Leaf Labs up in Willits is the parent company for Canna Park and Payne's Distribution and this sort of like group of companies that was into at the time into brand incubating real deal resin, getting them going, and which is a pretty big task. It's a lot to do to get a brand off the ground, and so it was several years of like growing together, and that's what got me into going into the freezer, and and in that time, like it just became you know, uh, pretty obvious. I wanted to have a foot in both paths. I want to keep going with the dry flower as well as doing some of this. We kind of split it, 50-50 more or less for a couple years and had some pretty big boo-boo years and just like, whew, messed up a whole bunch of material. Like that just feels terrible when you do that. And learned some lessons and got some SOPs queued up just right and figured out how to do it a little more efficiently and just really keep our eye on certain things that were just not allowed. Um, and like for instance, if you take your dog to the vet, be sure and tell your vet that you have a cannabis farm, that you must have the kind of tick and flea medicine that will not be topically applied. Has to be an internal
I
chew.
see.
One of my we just decided to get dogs over the winter, and I didn't think about that. Like the worker took the
Wow.
dogs to the vet. The tenant there took the dogs to the vet, got them their tick and flea medicine, put it on
Wow.
them, and just didn't even think about it. Well, those dogs, whether they're in the garden or not, the tenant is petting and holding the dogs. We all pet the dogs. We love our dogs.
Right.
And then you go touch the plants.
Wow.
And so surprise, surprise, like at the end of that year, not even the end of the year, middle of summer, like harvest, and I know we didn't spray anything nefarious on those plants. I know they're clean. And
Yeah.
Leaf also has confidence they're clean because we're all in it together. They didn't even test it. They just literally ran it all the way through the rosin process and all the way into packaged goods and get it all the way
Wow.
to a state compliance test and blows up. The whole thing blows up for a category 1 pesticide that is found in tick and flea medicine. So
Wow.
Wow.
that was a
Wow.
very expensive day, a very expensive,
Yeah.
turn of mistakes and
I think you're
shit.
just telling people stuff that I've never heard that before. This is something that everyone should pay attention to because
Watch out.
I've never heard
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And
How many
it's not just
don't?
for concentrates. It's not just for
Wow.
concentrates. It's not just for commercial farms. If you're a home grower growing for your personal use, you could be contaminating your crop.
Yeah, we shouldn't even
Wow.
be putting that shit on dogs anyways. I mean, it's like my partner was telling me about his dog would shiver in the corner and hide from the stuff when it was time to put it on. And that made him
Um,
question, like, do I want to put this on my dog? Like, the dog knows there's some neurotoxin going on his body. Um, but yeah, totally. I mean, that was the first like bullet that hit us hard, and we got hit with a few bullets over the years, and but nothing really like compares to the market just being in the twos and threes or the
yeah.
nuns. Just like
That's tough.
is dry if dry flower doesn't move fast enough, it's perishable. It goes fast. So there's a desperation to sell it. So you're going to sell it for whatever you can get. So the market knows that, and just systematically over years, it's just down to doing it for as little as possible. So the,
Yeah.
the flower side of it is fully consumed by, you know, bigger farms that can model that can make a great profit at 250 to 300. And they're going to continue to do that. So we kind of know what the bottom looks like, and there's a lot of gravity pulling everything in that direction.
Wow.
Whereas the fresh frozen just a couple years ago, just seeing the market like that, I, you know, normally had like flour, if it's not the right kind of plant, if it's not a hash dumper, it's not going to do well for rosin. You're not going to get enough out of it, you know. Um, so it would go to hydrocarbon and you can extract like whatever Master Kush or Lemonhead in hydrocarbon and get a whole bunch of stuff. Whereas like if you took that to try to wash Lemonhead into a rosin, you'll get zero. There's just nothing. The heads are the wrong kind of heads. They fall apart. They're too wet. So like, but the hydrocarbon lane is really loaded. So it's very very cheap. So you're gonna maybe get $20 a pound or maybe $25 a pound for your fresh frozen. Whereas like the rosin lane was more exclusive, and if you can get the right kind of stuff in there, you're looking at like 50, 60, 70, 80, 100. Like it just depends on what it is, but north of 60 most likely. And that's saying a lot now, because north of what, who knows what people are going to get for stuff. I hate to get on the air anywhere and try to predict anything because it's not predictable. But basically more, you can get more for your money, or more for your weed if it's a hasher. So we would have like big bud flower strains and then hash strains, and then one year I was finally like, fuck it, just freeze all of it. Doesn't matter. I'd be better off getting $25 a pound for my frozen than trying to trim all this shit and sell it for what, 250.
Wow.
You know.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's when you made the change to just freezing everything. But
yeah.
I mean, did you ever delve into rosin, or did you always just do the water hash,
No,
the
I mean
bubble?
those guys did the rosin. I've never made rosin myself. We make
You're
rosin
not an
at.
extractor. You're a cultivator.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bubble hash maker. I've made plenty of bubble hash. I used to make that back in the day on up on Shimon's on the porch. We'd wash
Mhm.
everything through washing machines, and I'd
Mhm.
set up an agitation, basically a vibrating screen, you know. And
Yeah.
you put like I bolted a palm sander to a fixed frame of I think 70 or a micron size that was good for the hash. and
Yeah.
um and in February set all that up on my porch where it was fucking, I'm in a refrigerator, it's fucking cold,
Wow.
and we would run the hash through two washing machines and just make buckets and buckets and buckets of trichomes from all of our shit, and then just scoop
Mm.
those trikes onto that fucking screen and just blast it with tons of cold water, and
Wow.
we would wash that, and that was all cured dry trim
Nice.
material. We would wash that
Mhm.
down to like a root beer
Back
kind of.
back then, we were using trim and smalls for the water hash, not like
Yeah,
now
that's
where
what
you
we
literally
use.
freeze
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, we're
You
using
freeze
like
everything,
premium.
and
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything
yeah,
premium, or just all the nice shit that's going into that hash. So like
Yeah.
that stuff I gave you was just like top tier, delicious trichomes that had never been warm.
it was. Yeah,
And like you when you hit
like I said,
that,
I think the whole rosin thing. So there's this guy on he's on Instagram and on social. He is Douglas. I don't know if you've seen this guy or if we talked about him. He's Douglas. He made one of the big hash competitions back in the day. I forget what it was called. But he hates on rosin and he
mhm.
loves BHA. And he's always like, those rosin boys, they won't tell you that, all the terpenes and all everything that makes your flowers smell good is in the water. Why don't you ask them why when you walk into a room and you smell their rosin water, why it has a smell? Because you're losing all your terpenes, all the value of your crop right in that water.
Maybe not
And
all of it, right? But a lot.
but no, but a lot.
Have you
Yeah.
ever tasted that
And
water?
huh?
Have you ever tasted that
I
water?
actually have. I
It's
have.
delicious. It's like
It doesn't. I don't think it tastes good. I
I
don't
wouldn't
like it.
drink a bunch of it, but
But
like a little like dab of it tastes really good.
my point in what I was trying to say, and I think I went on to the water hash part when I was really wanting to focus more on rosin, is like when you heat cannabis, you are losing terpenes.
Hmm.
Like I just don't understand. And by the way, I consume rosin. Um, Earl Hill hooks me up with like the best rosin is awesome. But like I just wonder how much better would that shit have been if they just left it as water hash or like or dry sift and didn't go and heat it.
Yeah.
Like it just seems like an unnecessary process. The only time I can see like, and I would never do this personally, but like maybe if you're squishing flowers, like if you're not turning it into water hash or dry sift first, maybe if you're just squishing the flowers, I can see the benefit in being like, you don't have to go through the extra process,
Hmm.
like, maybe it's just easier if you're looking for it to be easy. But to me, the best quality hash is either dry sift or water hash because I don't want it heated. And so you gave me that product. I don't remember the strain name that you gave me. You gave me that water hash. Honestly, it was some of the most beautiful stuff I've smoked in years. And I haven't smoked much water hash. I'm smoking rosin because
Yeah.
that's what I feel like that's what the market wants is rosin, which also continues to show how uneducated the market is.
Hmm.
Just like the market wants high THC. Well, the market wants high THC because they don't know shit. They don't know
It's
that
just
THC is
numbers.
just like
Yeah.
it's just one part of it, right? And the clients want rosin and not dry sift or water hash as much because there's been all this marketing and hype around the rosin. Like I said, I think rosin is a mistake. And people in the chat, you can let me know what you think. If why you think rosin is better. But to me, dry sift and water hash is so much better than rosin. And you proved it. But I mean, he gave me a chunk that was sitting in a piece of paper in his glove box for like
Yeah.
so long, and he's been
It was
dabbing. And
so
it was
cooked,
some of the
bro. It's
nicest shit
like
I've had. Dude, it was
eh,
some of the nicest shit.
I'll,
Hey, by the way, you're home. Do you have a nice chunk of hash that you could bring up to your screen and show people?
I mean, I have a piece that's been in this can getting warm for a while. There's more in the freezer, but like I've been sitting here breaking little bits of this off.
I just wanted people to see like the amazing product that you make. So yeah, it's beautiful. And
It's really like creamy and waxy. Like you can like pinch it and break it up. Whereas like when this was made, it was like tar. I couldn't even do that. Like it would just totally stick to everything, like everything. And then it gets cured, and now it's ready to go into your spliff or dump it in your little hookah.
So, I mean, I told you what I think about the whole rosin movement, and you know, you tell me what you think. Like, does
I think it's
rosin make
great.
sense, or is it just
I think it's a delicate, beautiful thing. It's it's like fine tequila. It's something that's refined, and it's a very high level experience for sure. Like it's also, I think, when made super high grade, like it's just the creamiest thing, but it's a different kind of hit. It's a different kind of high. It's just it's like it's definitely apples and oranges, because like you could really come up with some great hash, great bubble hash that's going to taste more amazing than anything.
Yeah, I like the bubble hash or a dry sift hash.
Wow,
You know,
that just tastes so
uh,
fucking good.
I think also like people that aren't growers are not gonna, unless they're producing stuff on a scale like you are, then they are growers anyway. But unless you're growing your own weed, you don't really experience that, like, that
Yeah,
trim
right.
tray hash and the hash that comes from the screen when you got your buds drying, or
Yeah.
or the bubble hash you make at home, because it really is like craft batch stuff that we would do with, like Gabby was saying, your smalls, or your,
Mm-hmm.
we call it sweet leaf, right? Like the leaf that you're trimming just right off around the buds,
Mm.
and we would put that into our bubble hash, and it has a fucking great flavor. You
Yeah.
know,
It's
yeah.
amazing. I mean, I'm proud of the hash evolution that's taken place. I'd say that because I think if it wasn't for NorCal, let's call it the Emerald Triangle. I won't give all the credit.
Mhm.
That whole Emerald Triangle was in a race to create the finest, most beautiful thing ever. And it was happening in the early 2000s and the early Emerald Cups. Like people were coming forward or
Mhm.
with like the best thing they could possibly come up with, and breeding and squishing and finding new levels of high grade. And I've never been to the Spanibus Cup. I've never been over. I haven't been to Europe in a long ass time. But like some of my friends, Tony, and Eric, I think went over. At least Tony went over. I think both of them went over there and got denied because their hash was too fucking good. The judges were
Mhm.
like, "No way, this isn't real. This has to be made from
Wow.
external terps. This isn't real cannabis hash. What are you talking about?" And
Wow.
they didn't realize how what rosin was, and that's only like 10 years ago. You
Oh,
know, they didn't realize
yeah.
what rosin was. Now the whole world knows what
Wow.
rosin is. You know, and like it is a really high fidelity, incredible thing. Yeah, they've extracted all these things, the waxes and they've lost some terps, and
Mhm.
I think that's great for them. I don't personally. I like this more. I like this bubble hash more. It's more raw. It's more like it's very refined. There's no fluff and duff and shit in there. Like it leaves some residue, sure, in the little bongy thing I got to clean out, but the richness of the flavor is just unstoppable. There's nothing more tasty than a fresh live bubble.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm gonna be on the bubble team for a
Mm.
while at least. You know,
Yeah, and I mean, um, I think Tony and Eric's company is Honeysuckle Lotus,
yeah, honeysuckle. Yeah,
and they are by far. Uh, Someone saying, Gabby, maybe Kelron can refresh his feed, not exit, just refresh. Everyone else in the chat, let me know if you're having issues hearing Kelly. And don't worry, Kelly, because either way, everything's recorded and I can release
Mhm.
it.
how do I refresh it? Do I press that loop up there
I think that's what you do is just press the
Mhm.
refresh button on your browser. But I
on the
want to make sure.
browser?
I just want to make sure other people let me
It says
know.
it'll reload the page.
Yeah, you can
Mhm.
do that.
Well, that okay.
We might lose them for a second. Let me make
Changes you made may not be saved. Reload.
There you guys.
So
Hmm.
he'll be back. Full spectrum
Oh,
hash made from fully mature sun grown flower will always beat out the competition. They said he's
yeah.
frozen, so he came back.
Yeah.
Here's Kelron. Can you guys hear Kelron now?
Mm-hmm. Hey,
Uh,
I think
how's it
the
going?
other good thing about the fresh freeze is that you don't have to mess around like trying to cure it or dry it anywhere. You could just put it right in the freezer.
Yeah,
Yeah. What's simpler than that?
yeah. I
And
mean,
then
then just
pull it
keeping
out
those.
later, put it in the wash.
Yeah, yeah. It's just as long as you're willing and able to babysit that infrastructure, make sure it stays healthy and holds it all, you should be good
Yeah.
for a while. There's some people get beef about it being too old or froze for too long, or I've heard
Hmm.
stuff like that. I've also seen it be just fine.
Yeah.
Um,
so
but
what I
yeah,
was
it's a
saying
great.
before we had you refresh is um, like so Tony and Eric, they're hash lords. They make the best quality hash for sure. But
Yeah,
and I should talk to them about it, because it's been a really long time since I talked to them, and I know that they make both. They make bubble and they make rosin. To be honest with you, I think they're just, and I'm not saying this as an insult, but I think they're following the trend. And
mm.
like people really want rosin, so they go and say, "All right, I'm gonna make the best rosin." And now people want dry sift, and so
uh,
they're making the best dry sift. Like I don't know that they think that rosin is better than water hash. I'd like to talk to them about it,
yeah.
but
I
like I
wouldn't.
said,
I wouldn't
I just
know.
think anytime you're making rosin, you're just fucking up water hash or dry sift. And so I don't understand the logic. Even though, like, when you get the finished product, it can be really amazing. I mean, if you take a
Yeah.
fresh frozen material and you go through the process of making rosin, it's going to be nice. But how much nicer would it be if it was just water hash or dry sift?
I mean, that's how I feel about it. I feel like it's nicer as water sift or water hash, just in its holistic form. But you got to remember, bro, there's like a whole culture of people who have like competed to make the most refined, incredible, buttery, delicious thing you could ever imagine, and they've become 4, 5, and 6 tiers or 6-star, like next level. Like there's always some kind of leveling up to where you're just delivering some supremely creamy, delicious thing, and that's that. That's part of why there's a guy like Tony consumes and loves that shit so much that I think he's more like just gobbling up what he enjoys. Like that's just a delicious thing for him. I can never put down as much, nowhere near as much weed as that guy. Like to be able to hit those things and just keep talking to you like you're not. I mean, I'd be leveled after like half of one good fucking hot dab, and he'll just keep going. But I don't know. I think that those guys really actually have their taste for us. Like I don't understand wine. Like I can't one glass of wine and the next they kind of don't taste much different to me.
Me too.
And it's like they all kind of do the same thing unless they're just cheap shitty. But like even like really expensive wine doesn't necessarily taste that much better than the fucking the $40 bottle versus the
Well, we
$400
just
bottle.
we just don't have the palate for that. Like some people could say the
Right.
same thing about cannabis, right? That they can't taste the difference between, a
Well,
higher.
we're talking about it right now between the difference between bubble hash and live and rosin, and I feel like we're kind of talking about like tequila versus bourbon. They're just two different two different end results that
No,
people love for different reasons.
I don't agree. And the reason why I don't agree is because making tequila or bourbon is a completely different process with different raw ingredients. And so when we uh, make dry sift or rosin, okay, rosin, so what you said
You're
earlier is
yeah
we're refining it more, right?
yeah they're yeah yeah.
We're trying to get out a little bit more of the contaminants, right? But in the process of trying to refine it more, are we ruining it? And
Well, ruining is a big word,
well,
right? Like are we
no, I mean
degrading it
degrading, but isn't degrading ruining?
or diverting it? Like you're splitting it, and you're kind of fractioning off a part of it,
Well, they don't. What do
right?
they
Like
do with the other part? They throw it away.
it's destroyed.
That's what
so
that
much
guy.
lost. That's what always killed me about rosin. Is it like, well, I didn't really think about that so much until I got right down the nitty gritty of it and started looking at like running our own stuff and like seeing what actually comes out and like, holy shit, you lose another 20 to 30% once you go squish it, and then it's just, where'd that go? It goes, gets re-squished, you get a little bit more, but like you're losing 20 to 25% of your hash weight in the press. And yeah, and that first, it's like so much terp is lost when you start smashing things at 100 and something degrees, which I don't know exactly what numbers rosin makers
Well,
press at, but
terpenes will start evaporating in the 70s,
sure.
right?
It,
So if you're heating it even to a low temperature of,
yeah,
I think like on the low end they're doing like 120, 130. You can't. I mean, it's got to be more than that, right? So
yeah,
no matter what, you're degrading the product. And so
yeah.
that's just why I wonder it. Now, something else that I want to ask you, and I know that you have some proprietary methods, and I don't want you to tell us any secrets that you don't want to tell us, but you showed me some stuff that tripped me out because you showed me stuff that you had worked and it was actually lighter in color than when it started. And for me, I would think like anytime you work the product or if it's exposed, it's going to get darker. But
Yeah.
and I'm not. I'm gonna say I'm not. I don't make hash. I mean, I
Uh-huh.
have, right? So I
Yeah.
don't understand the process as much. But so it's a two-part question. Number one is like, how does the product end up getting lighter in color by simply handling it? And also, is aged hash better than fresh hash?
Hmm. Well, I think that I don't
I
know
don't
the
think
answer to the
so.
first one. I don't
What'd
know
you say?
why. I said I don't really know the answer to the first one. I don't know why things get more brighter in color when you whip them, but like it does. Like you can take all that, when they make rosin, they like cure it, right? And then
Mhm.
they whip it and serve it. And when they whip it, it comes up in color. You know,
And so it's the same thing with the water hash.
I think so.
Mhm.
But it's as far as like why. What was the second part of the question?
The second part of the question was
Is
aging,
aged
right?
better? I
And
mean,
cured or like, or is it
it
best to just have the product just go right into the freezer and
depends on how you want to use it. I think a lot of people like to blend it with stuff. And that's where like having it aged and cured gets it to the point where it's manageable and easy to put into your joint. You know.
so it's
Cured is different than aged, though, right? Like, what at what point do you think it would be aged? Like six
Yeah.
months or a year
somebody was like,
old?
I
Like,
like my
what's
7 year old.
older?
Somebody
Huh?
in the comments wrote, I like my 7 year old water hash.
7 year old. Wow.
Like stuff that he's had for 7 years.
Huh. So I think
Yeah.
it would lose. I don't know. I would think it would lose some
I think if
flavors.
you have it in the sealed up in the
Where
freezer
it
or
is.
whatever,
Yeah.
but like or just in some kind of humidor at a low temperature, sealed up, probably does age quite interesting.
Hmm.
It's probably super interesting.
Well, I think
Um,
like part of Frenchie's process and other people's process is to age it. And then, interesting enough, and Frenchie, part of his stuff would be to use like a water bottle that was hot.
Huh.
And Frenchie's
oh, to
gone,
roll it and stuff.
right? Frenchie's gone, so
Yeah.
I can't ask him. But like, it comes down to the same thing. Like, why are we heating it? Are we heating it just to make it more?
Well, a lot of times it won't move. Like it gets it's it wants to like harden up. Some things are like some is a lot of strains are more more or less tarnaceous, like where they just become like an unmanageable tar, right? Like when it's warm, it's just gonna melt all over the place.
Hmm.
Um, and then as that starts to age or whatever, it starts to become more manageable and doesn't just melt all over the place, but then
Mhm.
requires some heat in order to move it, in order to get it to reshape. And probably that
Mhm.
warm bottle because he's reshaping it and flattening it out, trying to get it into like a shape and size that you can start slicing and putting putting to use.
Mhm.
Um,
So again, that
Yeah,
sounds like it's more for like being able to handle it easier, but
well, it's
not
being able to
necessarily to like cure it,
manipulate it, you know.
but not to enhance the
Mhm.
quality of the product or like the way it's
I
smoked.
I mean, probably not so much to enhance the quality of the product, no. But not to a degree that really degrades it either. I mean, like a low temperature, something like even body temp, you're like 97 degrees, you can start pressing a patty of hash together and it will get more and more mobile. It would be hard at first, and you start putting your body temperature to it as you're moving it, it becomes mobile. You know,
Right. That's the way
each
the
time it
original
does
hash,
that, it's sort of like,
the original
new.
hash was made.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, there's so many techniques to hash making, bro, and like how people do what they do, and I hate to get on the air and start blasting like these are all the top hash making secrets and piss off some hash guys,
No,
like
I wasn't asking you to
uh,
do that. I
no, no,
definitely
I
wasn't
know. I'm
saying that
just
by
I'm just
saying that.
joking.
But I mean, I wish, and I got to call Tony and Eric and have them be on the show because they're also friends and part of my story. When Not So Dog was talking about that 20 by 50 greenhouse that we thought was going to be too big, and we ended up building a 20 by 30.
Yeah.
Um, Eric was our partner in that, and he lived up on the property, and so he's part of my story. So I am, and I haven't talked to him in a long time. I need to give him a call, see how he's doing, and see if they want
Yeah.
the show. But I really want to know from like, I mean, it's unfortunate because the people that answer the questions, they have a vested interest. Like if you're producing rosin, you want people to think rosin's the best. You're not going to
Yeah.
tell them that like heating
Or
the
you're out.
product is degrading it.
Right.
So,
Right.
um, but I really want to know what like these real hash producers, because again,
I
I'm
think
an
a lot of them love the bubble hash more. Like the first time yeah, I've met some you know, pretty prolific hash maker guys that make tons of rosin. Well, they also make bubble, and then like, what are they going to smoke when they open up their kit? Oh, they're busting out that bubble.
So
Like,
I just posted what somebody said, and I remember this being true. Frenchie said it was heated to be decarbed before consuming because it made it more potent when fully activated.
yeah,
So
that's true.
again, would that be the same when it comes to bubble hash and rosin?
Oh yeah, I think rosin's more potent.
You do, but is it more
Rosin's going to get
potent
you.
because it's a couple of percentage points cleaner because we've taken some
No, I think it's more
contaminants out
potent
of it?
because it's been heated up.
Hmm.
It's been decarbed. Whereas like this bubble hash is only getting decarbed at the moment of consumption. So a lot of what you're inhaling isn't necessarily decarb THC delta 9. It's all the other stuff that didn't get converted, as some of it's getting converted by the heat to delta 9.
Mm.
So that's
But
why I think you get a
if
little
we're
bit.
smoking it and not eating it, does that matter?
Well,
Like,
like I'm saying, like I think that whenever you're heating or vaping, we're not talking about eating it right now. We're talking about
right?
heating it up, right? Like if I'm gonna vape uh, rosin, I think that there's more delta 9 in the rosin than there is in the bubble hash. Wouldn't you say?
Okay, so but my point is, so yes, right? But my point is that's only a test result. When you're smoking it, you're decarbing it, aren't you? Or you're heating it.
Yeah.
The
To
process
what
is
degree?
happening, So
To what
like,
degree though? Like how efficiently are you doing that? Like I mean, when you're smoking it, like is it decarbing 100% of it as it goes into you, or is it decarbing 20% of it as it goes into your lungs? Like I don't know, and I think it decarbs some of it, but not all of it. Whereas like with the, and I could be totally wrong. It just could be the kind of high I'm getting from the bubble hash is pretty vivid and cerebral, but I recover faster. From like rather than like a straight blast of THC from a dab or a rosin, a hit of rosin. Um, so I'm assuming that it's less. Yeah, it's all up front with rosin, no legs.
you
Yeah,
know, for me, my main concern with this is just the loss of terpenes.
Right.
Because whether it's water hash or
Yeah.
rosin or dry sift, all that shit's gonna get me fucked up. You know,
100%. Yeah.
right? So like I just when I consume a product like this, I just want it to have the maximum amount of terpenes. And
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
worry, maybe I'm just worrying for nothing because I don't know, but I
Right.
worry that heating the product in,
You're
and
not.
if somebody
You're
in the
wrong.
chat
Not
can
wrong.
please tell us how hot is the coldest that we can make rosin? What's the coldest temperature that you can make rosin at? Because you can't just squish it at room temperature. It don't work, right?
Right. It's got to be
You need to
warm. Yeah.
flatten it. So like what temperature?
I
And
think that those that craft is in the in different houses. It's probably different temperatures. I don't know if there's a standard across the board because what temperatures do they set their plates to, and they probably fine tune depending on their plates and how much pressure and how fast they're applying it.
I mean, I guess the question doesn't have to be precise, but like if somebody said, 120 to 130 degrees or,
That's
a hun-
hot.
you know, right. I can't imagine it being less than 120 degrees
Yeah. Well, and
because,
then this sat in my truck and probably got to 120 degrees.
right.
And look how fucking tasty it was still.
Yeah, it was.
Just freaking delicious.
But again,
But definitely different. Like it's like that.
yeah.
That's a lot of that terpene is what makes it so just ultra sticky. Like it's just wet, sticky, gooey stuff. Anyways, we probably segue into like some more story times or something.
Oh, you
Gabby,
have
what?
more stories? Tell us some more
Yeah.
stories,
Well,
please.
I want to tell you guys the other half of that first year that we were there.
Do it.
Where we were on Shimmons, and um, we'd met the sheriffs, been through that whole bust in the spring, so we went gangbusters and planted as much as we could on that hill. And like we didn't know what we were doing at all. We were like growing in 30-gallon bags of coconut fiber and juicing them with hydro and we were creating a crop, and but we didn't know how to harvest it. Like we were literally like just you know bringing it in wet and trying to trim the stuff up and hang it, and just making a mess out of all of it. Um, but needless to say, we had about 30 or more friends over, um, and weed was all over the front yard, all down the hill. We had two houses full of trimmers, and it's about 10 o'clock at night, and my buddy that was watching the driveway is like, Kelly, the sheriffs are here. He comes down, hey, the sheriffs are here, Kelly. They want to talk to you. And I'm in the garden, and I thought, oh, all right, well, shit. I set my basket down, and I wasn't too alarmed because they were so friendly the last time they were there. My friend took off running down the hill, and I pull up or walk up to the grass, the front driveway, and there's the sheriff there. He's like shining a light on my weed patch, and he says, I said, are you guys sure you're at the right place? And he's like, oh yeah, we had a 911 call to this address. And I'm like, no, are you sure you're at the right? He's like, yeah. He listed off my phone number, and he asked if I had anybody tied up or if there was, if we'd killed somebody. And I'm like, man, none of that. And I was like, he's like, what are you guys doing up so late anyways? And I'm like, well, we're harvesting our medical marijuana. And he points his flashlight at the crop, and he's like, no, I'm not here for that. And it's like, well, we're gonna have to go in the house and clear the house that the phone call came from. So you can either take me in there, or I can wait for a warrant if you want to go through all that. And I'm like, no, come on, let's just go. And we walk over to the front door, and he had another sheriff with him. So the two sheriffs are behind me, and I open the front door, and bro, no, I'm not even exaggerating. The smoke was like down to your knees. Like the house was so full of pot smoke because a bunch of joints had just been lit up, and the place was just smoked out. And this sheriff is like waving his arms as he's walking through the smoke, and he says, "No wonder somebody called 911. There's a compassionate pot smoke everywhere. It's a fire." And
Passionate pot smoke.
and I don't think he said pot smoke. He said compassionate use of marijuana everywhere, and and we wave our arms through the fucking living room, and there's this huge table of all these trimmers, and like my friends, that were there, from some of them were from the Bay, like musicians, and just a bunch of cool people
Wow.
were out there at the time.
Party,
We were
hanging out.
partying.
Yeah.
And the Yard Dog Roadshow was there, like
Nice.
Micah and Leighton and all these cool cats were there, and uh, and Tommy was sitting at the end of the table, and I said, "Hey, everybody, the sheriffs are here." As I walk into the trim scene, and nobody skipped a beat. Bob Marley was playing, the smoke was
Uh,
down to the bottom of the table, and you have my friends just lifted their heads and said, "Oh, hey, how's it going, sheriffs?" and went right on back to trimming. And we walked through the living room, and people are just snipping away, and these sheriffs are like waving their arms around at the smoke and looking at the whole scene. And it wasn't they didn't see everything. They were in the living room. Think we didn't want them to go anywhere but the living room. That was just perfect for them. And we produce our cards and start talking about that. Dispatch calls in and fucking clears the house, and and then the sheriff's like, let's just talk about this. This is bullshit. You guys are telling me that you're growing all this stuff for medical purpose. I said, absolutely. I said, look, this guy over here's got epilepsy. I've got scoliosis. We have pain issues. We have all kinds of issues that doctors have told us we could use this for. So, unless you're a doctor, you don't really have, much to stand on. But these doctors told us we could, and I kind of got into this little bit of a conversation with him. Not quite that curt. I don't remember exactly how the words went, but basically, yeah, we have the right to use this stuff. And he was like, "Well, I've got direct orders not to mess with marijuana, so this is your lucky night." And he left. And my head was spinning, bro. Like, what the fuck just happened? We just had these two sheriffs show up. Is this what the fuck goes on in Mendo? I mean, is this normal, or is this some kind of like Emerald Triangle setup? What's is the are these guys cousins coming back here later with the freaking ski masks to hog tie us and steal our shit, or was this a scouting? Like, what the fuck is going on? My head's spinning. Nobody called 911. I'm in my
I think
mind. I'm
they're
thinking
just
like, who?
pissed off about all the weed smoke. They're like, ah.
There's so much smoke. Well, and so the sheriff. That's right. The sheriff looks at me and he goes, "So, did you get in a fight with one of your workers today?" And I was like,
Wow.
in my mind, I'm like, you know what I did? I got in a fight. I didn't get in a fist fight, but me and Dohani had it out,
Wow.
and Dohani had departed with his loot and went off and bought a ninja motorcycle and came back. I was like, and the fight was pretty nasty. I don't want to air it all, but like it was, accusations and shit, and basically he wasn't happy with what he was getting, and
Yeah.
he comes back with this ninja, and he hadn't worked a day in months. Like, this guy had given up. He comes back on his motorcycle, sits down, and starts trimming. And that was unusual in the
Oh,
middle of the day. Like, this guy's sitting there trimming. You know. Anyways, the sheriff asked me if I had a fight with any of my workers that day, and I opted to tell him no, I hadn't, because I didn't really want to just say, yeah, that one
yeah.
right there I had a
The
fight with.
sheriff in the middle of your drama or whatever.
Actually, this guy over here, he and I beefed this morning.
Yeah, let's
Why?
have an investigation about my argument.
Yeah, and so like the sheriff was like, well, because usually it's one of your workers gets pissed that things didn't
Oh,
go their way, and that's who would do something like that. And he looks over
wow.
at the crowd, and I look at the crowd. The whole table of people are just like, what? And he's like, which one of you guys called? Which one of you guys called 911? And the guy that like I got in a fight with that day, like
Yeah.
literally put his head under the table. Like he
Wow.
scoots back, gets down, and starts tying his
Yeah.
shoes. Like he's got to tie
Yeah.
his shoes all of a sudden.
Can't even look.
He can't even look at
Wow.
us, and I'm like, you dirty little shit. I'm like thinking to
Wow.
Why
myself,
would he come back? Why would he
Yeah,
come
and the
and
sheriff
come back?
outed
dude,
him.
he came back, and so I still don't have it put together. I just saw that happen in front of my
Wow.
eyes, and I still don't even know that Dohani. I still don't know if Dohani
Yeah.
pinged 911. But I'll tell you what. After that, it was really strange because I backtracked into like who had the phone. Like, where was the phone? It was in Jeffrey's back pocket. And Jeffrey, where did you pick it up at? From Dohani? Dohani had the phone next to his trim tray. He was sitting at the table
Yeah.
with the phone. So
Wow.
like it's a little bit too coincidental, but you also got
Right.
to like know who this character is too, and their potential for just doing weird shit was extra
Yeah.
special. And anyways, it was I'm pretty sure an inside little scoop there tried to smoke me out with that 911 call, and they just left, and it took me a
You
minute
guys
to figure
smoked
that
the
out.
sheriff out instead.
Yeah, the sheriffs just came out there and left, and yeah, that
They're
was my
like, we have to get
first
out of this
first
cloud.
year.
They might have
Yeah.
been guilty of driving while under the influence.
Yeah, they didn't want to get all fucking stoned and have to drive their cars back. Too flashy.
Yeah.
It's funny because
Yeah.
you reminded me of a story about me, and this was like when Prop 215 just happened. I don't remember exactly what year, but I didn't have a medical card at the time. Okay, um, I still didn't like the idea of I just didn't feel like I needed to do it. Right?
Hmm.
Like I said, it was at the very beginning, and I get pulled over, and the cop smells weed in my car. So I got pulled over for like I don't even know what. It was like a simple infraction, but for some reason, I got pulled over. And when the cop has me roll down the windows, he's like, I smell marijuana. So um, I think because I knew he smelt it. They always say, don't admit it, but like this cop 100% smelt it, and he was going to like, he's gonna find it, right? It wasn't very
Yeah.
much. It was just a bud. But back then my
Yeah.
weed really stank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
So,
don't think
so
time.
I was like, look, I just have this bud. And so he takes it and he goes in like to his car to probably check out to see if I have any warrants or anything like that. And he comes back and he says, that's medical, right? I'm like, huh? He's like, that's medical marijuana, right? I was like, yes, it is. He's like, do you have your card? And I said, no, I don't have it on me. I didn't even have it at all, but I said, no, I don't have it on me. He says,
Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm going to give you a ticket for possession of marijuana while driving, but if you go to court and you produce your card, the case will be dismissed. So
Yeah.
I I go and make an appointment. There was a place in Berkeley where there was a doctor, I forget his name, but he was like the main guy that everybody was getting their um, prescriptions from. And you would like wait in an office for you to make an appointment. The appointment would be the weeks out. And then you'd have to sit and wait in this waiting room all day with a bunch of other people trying to get their prescription. And, eventually, you walk out of there with a cannabis prescription, right?
Hmm.
And so then, like a few weeks later, or a month later, however long it is, so you got to show up to court. I go to court, and I'm sitting there waiting for them to call my name, right? And every single um, case that's going on is a drug case, okay? And in every single case, the district attorney is like, "Yeah, we offered the client diversion." Which means they have to like go do a class and do some like community service to get off,
Hmm.
right? And so it's like one after another, these people got caught with coke or heroin or whatever, and they're getting diversion,
Hmm.
right? So um, it's my turn, and I don't remember exactly what happened. I think the judge says, are we going to offer uh, Gabriel diversion? And I said, excuse, and this is my first time, having to address a court like this. And I said, excuse me, Your Honor, I just want to let you know that I have a medical marijuana card. Okay. So he says, bailiff, grab that. The bailiff grabs it. The judge takes it and he looks at it for a couple of minutes or, seconds, which seem like hours, right? And then he slams the gavel and says, case dismissed.
Hmm.
The entire courtroom erupted in cheers. There was like
Yeah.
30, 40 people and they're all like, yeah.
Woohoo!
You know?
Hence, yeah.
It was like, I'll never forget that. Everybody was fucking going to drug diversion and community service and stuff, and like I broke out my medical card.
Yeah. Yeah.
Case dismissed.
That's
So
pretty good.
you just reminded
You
me of.
save taxes here if you have a medical card. Like that's
Oh
probably
yeah,
about the only. They don't
I
tax them. They still pay tax. Curiously, on
it's still the case.
medicine,
It's still the
but
case everywhere.
yeah, but it's less tax than if you don't have a medical card.
I don't
So,
buy weed in dispensaries, so it's
yeah,
like
I've never been in one.
not
So.
an issue. Like to save money on
But
taxes.
that's what they tell me, is that if you have one, not only is it better for things like lawsuits, but you would save on tax.
Yeah, somebody said, but we can have guns. You know,
Mm.
so we can
Yeah,
have.
that's great. That's new news out of the federal courts this week that a man in Texas who was a hunter who had his guns and his medical card needed to, or sued to make sure that he had access under the law.
So that
And
happened
that's
now.
a win. Yeah, that's a real win for gun owners who are marijuana smokers or who are using marijuana medically.
Hmm.
So there we are back to the card, which does have its conveniences, Um, so that's what was decided by a federal judge, though, this week was that if you are a gun owner, just having medical marijuana does not exclude you from gun ownership. So,
Yeah, one would hope so. One would hope
yeah,
not.
but that's been a
Yeah.
big debate for a long
Oh yeah,
time,
totally.
you know.
But you
So
can be
that was a win.
schizophrenic and they'll sell you a gun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, depends. Like, yeah, what they know about people, but
Hey, so
um,
I wanted to say something, Kelly.
Mm.
We're talking about how you stayed in Mendocino County.
Mm.
Look how beautiful it is right now. I mean,
I
like
know.
you look like you're in absolute paradise. You
I,
know,
I
it's
pretty
like,
much enjoy my life here. Yeah. It's beautiful, bro. I mean, most of the time it's not too hot. I think you get a little bit of too hot in the middle of summer and you go get on the lake.
mhm. You
There's
still go on the
usually,
lake? You have a boat?
yeah,
Or
come
you
up
can
and hang
invite
out on
me
the
on?
boat sometime. Yeah.
I haven't been on a boat in a decade.
Yeah. Yeah. I still have the Centurion.
Oh shit.
Um,
Do you
we do a
surf
little,
behind it?
yeah, I need a better bilge setup. Like last time I surfed behind it, we got a big wave going, but the
You
amount of
almost
water that gets in there, I don't have enough bilge, and the belt gets wet. It's not, and pretty soon, like I got alarms going off, and we're shutting her down.
Oh
But
damn. Well,
it's
I'd
fun
love
to
to
just
get
get out
out
there
there
and
and
cruise. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, that
Uh,
that lake's pretty peaceful, man.
you're gonna get me up there soon. Uh,
Yeah, come on up.
everybody, if you here is a secret tip that only the people watching this video will find. But if you search on YouTube for Gabby air chair flips, I'm gonna actually pull it up.
Dude, you had the air chair down, bro. That thing is so trippy.
I used to actually
oh,
be pretty athletic. Now I'm just a fat fuck that, like, let me see uh,
hmm.
how fast I can load up the Gabby Air. Now, one thing is this video does have some disco playing on it, so don't be surprised.
Oh, well, you
Uh,
guys still haven't pointed out my disco ball. You see?
no, I
I
still have
see
some
a
more to
blue
show.
something in the tree, but it
You
doesn't
see
look
the
very
disco ball right
above.
above the disco ball's right above the lamp.
I can't
Oh,
really
I
see
can't
anything
see it
above the
too
lamp.
bright.
Oh,
Well, it's
now
a
I see it, dude. I see it all of a
So you
sudden.
ready, guys?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
guys aren't
I
gonna
totally
believe.
see it up there.
I don't see it, but I'll
It's
look.
really
You guys aren't gonna
incognito. You
believe.
have to look for it above the
This is
lamp.
me. Okay, this is me,
go.
and this is Lake
Uh,
Mendocino.
Yeah, dude. I
there
remember
you
you
go.
doing that shit. I was probably
There you
driving your
go.
boat.
Probably. And look at how glassy the lake is.
It
Lake
looks
is,
good.
oh my God, I miss going out on the water, dude.
That is the fucking funniest looking shit, dude.
You watch this.
You got, you're
Yeah,
like, what the
there you
fuck?
go.
Wow, the air chair,
You know,
Wow.
fucking thing
Mm,
was the best.
the hydro chair.
I mean, the
wow.
only way you can get higher
Yeah.
is to hydrofoil to get up in the air. Yeah, this video is 19 years old.
Uh
So that was
Yeah,
that was
dude. That's exactly right. Yeah,
Well,
so.
2007.
Do
no.
you have any more stories you want to share with us before you? And by the way, no matter what, we need to have you back.
Well,
Okay.
we'll probably just save
Or
some for have me back because it's today is the start of our
harvest.
harvest,
Mm.
and I'm like, it's not. I have
You really sacrificed this.
my farm is tapping its fingers right now, going, okay, Kelron, when you're done with your podcast, we're waiting for
Yeah.
that electricity to turn on so we can fire up the engines, bro.
All right. Well,
We're gonna,
we'll let you go, Kelly. But I love you so much, brother.
yeah,
And
man, love you too.
now I know I'm gonna see you like soon because I'm gonna fucking come up there and go on the lake with you because I need to. I need
You
to
just need to come sit in the garden, dude. Like
do that.
come like walk through a couple rows of like clean, pristine cannabis that's just terps are falling off of it in your face and
Well, I want to get some more of that water hash from you, so I'm gonna have to do that because
yeah.
I'm telling you, it's beautiful. And if I
Like
wasn't locked up in this studio today, my family's home, my lady's sick, and my kid's staying home taking care of
yeah,
her. So like, I didn't want to do the podcast there today.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was gonna show everybody your product, so I'm glad you had a little chunk to show everybody. And yeah, I love you, brother. And as always, thank you, Saraquoia, for
Yeah, for
for
sure.
joining
Yeah,
us.
next week we should be back with the Women of Weed. We have AC Moon lined up. This is round 3 of the lineup, so I think it's going to be the charm. She's headed to the Cal Legacy Project, is the which she's on the board of, is speaking in Sacramento with the lawmakers this Friday about policy. So she was headed there and couldn't join us. And then we have some other cool mamas coming up in July. That's going to be good. So looking forward to that stuff. It was nice meeting you, Kelron.
Heck
Thank
yeah,
you for telling
Sequoia.
us your good stories. It's fun.
Sarakoya. Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Right on.
And
Alrighty,
Gabby, thanks for having me on, bro. It's been
no
fun telling
worries.
stories. Let's
Don't
do it
hang up,
again.
okay?
Okay,
Cool.
I'll hang around.
Hang on one second.